Selamat pagi. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Diisi oleh tenaga kreatif dalam kelas yang selalu interaktif. Kampus ini juga menyediakan fasilitas standar sebagai usaha penekanan pola pikir saintifik pada penelitian sains. Keleluasaan ruang proses pembelajaran, gigih dalam upaya pelestarian bahasa, dan pemahaman dalam sastra.
Dukung menjual lalapan, buah saraba buah buat pacaran.
Terus bergerak bersama perkembangan zaman dengan berpegang pada kearifan lokal di era teknologi dan informasi. Membangun budaya kritis intelektual, berwawasan internasional, serta keterampilan komunikatif guna menuju persaingan global. Pengabdian yang mengaplikasikan metode pengajaran seimbang, saling mencintai, dan belajar dari satu sama lain. Berdasarkan kearifan lokal dalam setiap gerak dan cipta, kesadaran atas warisan tradisi, dan penghayatan budaya Kalimantan Selatan. Disinilah mereka belajar, berdiskusi, bertukar pikiran dan bercanda, menyerap sebanyak-banyaknya ajaran yang hidup berikan untuk bekal di masa mendatang. Sebagai seorang pembelajar, mengharuskan budi pekerti menjadi kewajiban, lalu mengamalkan ilmu sebagai ucapan rasa syukur. Pendidikan adalah kunci menciptakan sebuah generasi yang gemilang. Bersama mereka dan seluruh sivitas akademika STKIP PGRI Banjarmasin, membuka selebar-lebarnya kesempatan dalam berbagi dan belajar bersama.
Jeng kita pipi di mana nama pi jerunda itu berapa dia.
pangkane bengena.
Cek. Oke. Tes. To our presenter and participants, we're going to start our event later than our scheduled time. To our presenters and participants, we would like to apologize because we are going to start our event later than our scheduled time due to some technical issues. I would just like to remind you for the presenters to rename your Zoom name. So you put the room number first, room number underscore your name and then your institutions. For example, if you are in the room number 2, put number 2 underscore Agustina Lestari underscore STKIP PGRI Banjarmasin. So it will be easier for us to take you to the breakout room on the parallel session. Thank you.
Cahaya. Jadi Nah, apa Aku bila hari tanpamu, segala cara aku coba bertahankan cinta.
To our participants and presenters, we're going to start in 2 minutes. I would like to welcome our keynote speakers, Pak Muhammad Roil Bilad, who have joined us on Zoom. We're sorry for the trouble, sir. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning. The Honorable Head of PPLP PT PGRI Banjarmasin, Dr. Andes Haji dari MM. The Honorable Head of STKIP PGRI Banjarmasin, Dr. Hajah Dina Huriati M.Pd. The Honorable Guest Speakers, Profesor Dr. Unifah Rosyidi M.Pd, Dr. Donnie Adams, Dr. Muhammad Roil Bilad, and Dr. Alimuddin Djawad M.Hum. Our distinguished guests and participants. Welcome to the first international seminar on education, technology, and arts organized by STKIP PGRI Banjarmasin. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to proceed to the first agenda. To our guests and participants, please stay seated while listening to the National Anthem Indonesia Raya and Anthem of STKIP PGRI Banjarmasin.
Indonesia,
The next agenda is brief report from the Chair of Committee. Please welcome Dr. Beni Nawatrisna, M.Pd.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahirabbil alamin. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad. The Honorable Ketua PPLPPT PGRI Banjarmasin Bapak Dr. Andes Haji Dahri MM. The Honorable Ketua STKIP PGRI Banjarmasin Ibu Dr. Hajah Dina Huriati M.Pd. The Honorable Speakers Ibu Profesor Dr. Unifah Rosyidi M.Pd, Ketua Umum PB PGRI, Bapak Dr. Donnie Adams from University Malaya, Malaysia, Bapak Dr. Muhammad Roil Bilad from University Brunei Darussalam, and Bapak Dr. Alimuddin Djawad from STKIP PGRI Banjarmasin. Ladies and gentlemen, presenters and participants, allow me greet you with Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. And welcome to the first International Seminar on Education, Technology, and Arts 2022. Especially to our speakers, I would like to say thank you for accepting our invitation to be speakers at today's seminar. The theme of this seminar is Tailoring Education for the Future of Work Post-COVID-19. The participants of this seminar are more than 400 participants, especially from Indonesia. They join the seminar at Zoom and also at YouTube channel. And this seminar will also be attended by 31 presenters in parallel sessions. The papers from this seminar will be published in proceedings. And then for the head of STKIP PGRI Banjarmasin, Ibu Dr. Hajah Dina Huriati M.Pd, I hope you officially open this seminar. And finally, we hope to gain useful knowledge about education, about technology and arts at this seminar. Thank you and wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you, Pak Beni, for the welcoming remark. Next, the opening remark from the head of STKIP PGRI Banjarmasin. Please welcome Dr. Hajah Dina Huriati, M.Pd.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. The Honorable Ketua PPLPPT PGRI Banjarmasin Andes Haji Dahri MM. The Honorable Speakers Ibu Dr. Unifah Rosyidi M.Pd, Ketua Umum Pengurus Besar PGRI. The Honorable Bapak Dr. Donnie Adams from University of Malaya, Malaysia. Bapak Dr. Muhammad Roil Bilad from University of Brunei Darussalam, dan Bapak Dr. Haji Alimuddin Djawad from STKIP PGRI Banjarmasin. The Honorable Senate, Deputies, Lecturers, Staff, students of STKIP PGRI Banjarmasin, all presenters and all of the participants of this seminar. First of all, let us praise and thank the presence of Allah Almighty for the abundance of grace and the joy of all of us can still gather without any barriers at all in a good heart. Salawat and greetings we pour out to the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Dear participants, I am honored to welcome you to this seminar. This is a big event for us. This event is held on May to commemorate National Education Day in Indonesia. Recently, President Jokowi Dodo has stated that we can gradually reduce the use of masks, which means that this pandemic will hopefully end, and we enter an endemic period. There are many things that we need to fix after more than 2 years. Almost all learning is carried out online. Many students has lost learning. How to design education and learning after this pandemic is every topics to study together. Ladies and gentlemen, we are honored to welcome our speakers for today, Professor Unifah Rosyidi, Bapak Dr. Donnie Adams, Bapak Dr. Muhammad Roil Bilad, and Bapak Dr. Alimuddin, that will share knowledge about this with all of us. Thank you. In this chance, I would like to thank In this chance, I would like to thanks to Dr. Randes Haji Dahri MM, whose support to conduct this seminar. And I also would like to thanks to the committee who have already prepared this seminar till make it happen. I would like to thanks to all who support us, especially thanks to all presenters who participate in parallel sessions and all participants. Please enjoy these seminars. Ladies and gentlemen, by saying Bismillahirrahmanirrahim, the first international seminar on education, technology, and arts with term Tailoring Education for the Future of Work Post-COVID-19, Tuesday, May 31st, 2022, is officially open. Thank you very much. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you, Ibu Dina Huriati, for the opening remarks. Now I would like to invite Haji Abdul Jabar, S.Pd. M.Pd, to lead the prayer.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Mari kita berdoa bersama untuk keberkahan dari kegiatan seminar internasional hari ini. Bagi yang beragama Islam, mari kita awali dengan baca Ummul Quran Suratul Fatihah. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahi rabbil alamin. Wassalatu wassalamu ala asrafil anbiya'i wal mursalin. Sayyidina wa maulana Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Allahumma afir lana zunubana wa li walidina warhamhum kama rabbawna sigara. Rabbana zidna ilma warzuqna fahma walhiqna bisalihin. Allahumma arinal haqqa haqqa warzuqna tiba'ah warinal batila batila warzuqna tinabah. Allahumma inna nas'alukal huda wattuqa wal afafa wal ghina. Allahumma inna nas'aluka tawbata maghfirah wa taufiq wal hidayah wa istiqamah wa husnal khatimah. Rabbana atina fid dunya hasanah wa fil akhirati hasanah wa qina adzaban nar. Wa sallallahu ala sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wasallam. Subhana rabbika rabbil izzati amma yasifun. Wassalamun alal mursalin walhamdulillahi rabbil alamin. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you. Now, before we proceed to the main session, I would like to request our participants to put their video on for a quick photo sessions. Okay, I'm waiting for the cue from our IT team. Okay, I give couple minutes for our participants to be ready, so you can grab your scarf or whatever you need to. Okay, 1, 2, 3, cheese. Okay, cool. For the second slide, I don't know who will be on the second slide. Just put the best smile on every take. Okay, 1, 2, 3. Okay, moving on to the next slide. Okay, 1, 2, 3. Okay. Now move to the next slide. How many slides do we have? Okay, let's see. 1, 2, 3. Okay, was that all? Do we need more pictures? Like, okay, this will be the last take. Okay, this will be the last take. Okay. All right, hold on. 1, 2, 3. Okay. Awesome. Nice. Thank you, participants. I see a lot of faces there. It's really nice to see faces, though it's only on the Zoom. All right. Now we will move to the main agenda, the presentation from our guest speakers. There will be 2 sessions of presentations, and the discussion on the first session will be led by Kuzairi M.Pd, and the second session will be led by Nana Suciati M.Pd. Both of our moderators today are the lecturers of English Language Education Study Program of STKIP PGRI Banjarmasin. Without further ado, please welcome the moderator of the first session, Kuzairi M.Pd. Over to you, Pak Kuzairi.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Good morning, everyone. How are you today? Thank you, Ibu Tina. We go to the main agenda today. We are going to listen and learn from the outstanding speakers here. And I would like to deliver my warm gratitude. First, we will have Bapak Dr. Muhammad Roil Bilad. Hello, Dr. Bilad. Hello.
Waalaikumsalam Pak. Halo.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. How are you, Bapak?
I'm very good, alhamdulillah.
Okay, thank you. And the second speaker, we will have Bapak Donnie Adams, Dr. Donnie Adams. Hello. Hello. Bapak Dr. Donnie Adams. Okay. Hopefully, Dr. Donnie Adams will join us soon. And then, before going to the first presentation from Dr. Bilad, sorry, what should I call you, Bapak? Dr. Bilad, it's okay.
You call me Roil, it's better.
Oh, okay, Dr. Roil. Okay, thank you, Dr. Roil. Okay, well, everyone, so Dr. Muhammad Roil Bilad is an associate professor at the Chemical and Process Engineering Department, Faculty of Integrated Technologies, University Brunei Darussalam. He also co-invented 3 IPO patents and co-authored more than 220 Scopus journal. Wow, this is wonderful. And then he completed. Okay, please. Okay, he completed his PhD program from Catholic University of University Leuven in Belgium, and then beliau is from Lombok Tengah, NTB, but now he lives in Bandar Seri Begawan, Brunei Darussalam, and today he will present sustainable membranes process for water and wastewater treatment. Wow, this is
excuse me, sir. I am not listening.
Please, audience, would you like to
No voice,
turn
no
off your...
voice. No voice from moderator.
Sorry, hello? Can you hear my voice, audience, participants? So if you have any trouble, just write in the column chat or write in the comment section in YouTube, and the committee will solve the problem. So, okay. And then today, Dr. Roil, 30 minutes for presentations, and then we go to the next speaker. And then participant, if you have any questions, feel free to write in the chat box, or you can use a raise hand after the sessions of presentations. And then we will have the Q&A after the two presenters or speakers complete his presentations. Mr. Bapak Roil, are you ready? Do you want to share the screen, your PPT by yourself or the committee?
I will share by myself if possible.
Okay, thank you. Okay, before going further to the next presentation, please welcome and give a huge applause for Dr. Roil. Yes, the time is yours, sir.
Yeah, the admin, please allow me to share my screen.
Committee, please, IT, tolong dijadikan host atau co-host Bapak Muhammad Roil. Okay, done, sir.
Okay. Yeah, I think it's okay now. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. It is my pleasure to be here to share my work, my passion to all of staff in, I think, STKP PGRI Banjarmasin. I've seen most of the participants from your institution, from the Zoom. I'm very glad to be here. I would like to thank, I've been communicating with Ibu Siti Ramdia. I forget if I ever met her before, but thanks to this fantastic technology that have been developed, we'll be able to communicate easily and very well, even though we are far away. So this is a blessing. And then related to the topic of the conference, the advancement of the communication technology is in full use during our not really great period of COVID-19. But Alhamdulillah, things get better. Also, we have to appreciate microbiologists, biotechnologists, people who work in health science, try to curb the effect so that human population, including us, not really affected. I know many have been affected, but I think thanks to advancement of science and technology, we managed to do that. Also, in the middle of the pandemic, we can live somewhat a normal life as a teacher, maybe as education community. We still succeed to the education, okay, from the primary level to high school level, even to the university level. When I prepare my presentation, first of all, I want to tell you to the topic of the conference, which is how to respond to the work after COVID in education. But then if I teach you how, so if I give a lecture on education, then I would be like a human teaching fish how to swim. This is what I imagine. So that will be very funny. I think most of you are very well versed on the advanced technology in education. So that I decided to just talk about something I do best, which is my research. So I'm going to be brief. I don't expect you to go into follow me into very detail, but I will try to share how can we actually perform research from understanding a specific problem, and how to be inspired by what you see around you. So most of my research that I'm going to present, well, it's not rocket science. You will see it's quite simple. And then if you cannot follow into detail, I believe that I can share very well the logic behind why I do it, the motivation to do it, a thing that inspired me to do it. And by the end, I hope that I can share the approach to all of the participants, so that all of us can do what we do best in the best way possible. Which is, I think, in Indonesia you have the three dharma, which is teaching, research, and community service. Okay, that's my very long introduction. So today I want to present a part of my research topic on sustainable membrane process for water and wastewater treatment. As kindly introduced by the moderator, currently I am an associate professor in the Department of Chemical and Process Engineering, University Brunei Darussalam. So we are share the same land. I mean, it's in the Borneo island. The only difference is that most of you probably now residing in the south end of the island, while Brunei is in the north end of the island. So inshallah, if the capital of Indonesia will eventually move to Kalimantan, there will be a highway road that connecting Brunei to the Nusantara. Probably. Okay. Before I proceed, I want to acknowledge my students. Actually, most of the work that have been done here, those were done by students. First of all is Nur Izzati Zainuddin. She was my student in University Technology Petronas. For your information, most of the work that I'm presenting now is part of the undergraduate research. So skripsi mahasiswa. So most of it, except one from this guy, Mr. Sarjil Wakas. So I'm presenting his PhD result. Apart from him, all of the work I presented is from a skripsi of mahasiswa S1. So first year, final year research student. And so all of the works except the one done by Sonia, those were done in my previous affiliation, which was University Technology Petronas Malaysia, while Sonia was a student in IKIP Mataram. Currently, the name is Universitas Pendidikan Mandalika in Lombok. Okay, this is outline. First, I want to share the overview of my research. Then I'll do quite introduction so that you can at least follow what I'm talking about. And then I will talk something that's quite call it moving, something that actually inspired my work that I am presenting here. And then lastly, it will be a summary of the research that we have done so far. So if you ask me what I'm doing, it's very hard for me to answer. So mostly I work on membrane science and technology. That's a very broad term, but basically it is a filtration. So the water purification, if you might say. For example, all of your drinking water might be you have on your table now. It has gone through some sort of filtration, and maybe it passed one of the filter called as a membrane. So membrane is something that is used for filtration. So when you say membrane technology, that is very broad term. And then when I say to you that is a filtration, it's also a very broad term. And then if I go into detail one by one, so it will be too broad as well. So I'll just keep it this way. If you have anything about to ask, you can ask later on. Okay. Most of the work I've done, I use it with, they call it DIY, do it yourself. So it's not a rocket science. It's not really super expensive and fancy research. Most of the setup were developed by students, final year undergraduate students. So it's for part of the script C student. So I believe that good research doesn't have to be expensive. Okay, so and I'm proving to you that actually we managed to publish it in a quite good journal. So most of the setup we use, they are with a basic one. All of them we make it, so student make it. So it's a DIY, do it yourself, and can be done. If it can be done with me, it can be done in Malaysia. If it can be done in Brunei, if it can be done in Mataram, it can also be done in Kalimantan. Okay. Okay. So next, a little bit about something, the deep motivation. So whenever I do my research, so the thing is that you can put something very light, or you can put a lot of things into something similar. So doing research for someone is like, probably for someone can be a burden. So it's just like you have to do it because for the sake of your BKD, for example. Yeah, that things. Every semester we need to submit this in Indonesia. But yeah, you can put that as one motivation, but you can also put a research as an extra motivation. So I always try to recalibrate the motivation of my research. As such, we know that we are do something big. We know that we are part of the scientific community, and if you are a Muslim, you know that it's stated clearly in the Holy Book of Quran. It said, "Yarfa'illahu alladhina amanu minkum walladhina utul ilma darajat." So Allah will lift few degrees among you who are believer and among you who are a scholar. So we are we are seen as a noble part of the profession. So in looking into this, so I always see my research as part of solving the water problem. So water will become the next commodity to be very important. Okay, currently our economy is driven by the oil, by the energy, but next it will be driven by water. And we still have a lot of problem. For example, inadequate access to clean water, water scarcity. I can cite what happened in Banjarmasin, for example. You have a lot of water, but it's saline water, and it's not in the top quality. And then to be able to solve these two big issues, we need new technologies that are highly robust, low cost, low energy, minimize the use of chemicals, and with minimum impact to the environment. And as far as I see, when people try to speak about water and wastewater, they always come back to one core technology, which is the membrane technology. So I set the mindset that, so what I'm doing now is part of providing the global solution to the global problem. And that is part of a noble kind of job. So so this is how I see that one. And what membrane is, basically it looks like a filter of paper. But if you look at under a tools called scanning electron microscopy, you'll be able to see millions or billions of pores. And then the one that is most famous, probably when you hear about reverse osmosis. Reverse osmosis is the, I think, a golden standard to desalinate seawater, and have been used as the main technology to supply clean water in Middle East, like Saudi Arabia, United Arab Emirates, Qatar, and so on. Okay, it is to desalinate water. But frankly, I think most of bottled water that you are drinking, it passed through this pore of membrane, either the microfiltration membrane, or most likely it polished with reverse osmosis membrane. Okay, those are my introduction. And then when we apply the filtration with membrane, then we always, so this is the thing, there is no perpetual things. You cannot get every single thing in the world will be broken. So you cannot maintain the performance. You cannot young forever. You cannot be handsome forever. You cannot be beautiful forever. So thing will never last. Okay. And the same thing in membrane filtration. So performance will never last. It will deteriorate as a function of time. So as engineer, as a scientist, the question to us is, can we do something to delay those things? Okay. Can we do something to delay the deterioration of the performance? And this is what I have been doing. Okay. So next, the third part of my talk will be about what is the main motivation behind the innovation we are developing. So I said here, there is a shifting in paradigm. So paradigm is the way to see things, okay? The way to see things. We can see things from different perspectives. And if we see from different perspective, we will end up seeing different thing, okay? Seeing something different. We'll have a different impression, okay? When you see someone from the back side, you see all the surface are flat, probably. And then, but when you see it from the front side, it's not really that flat. And then you see the feature of people's face and so on. You will also come up with different description when you see someone from the side. Okay, so those are the paradigm. And then what I'm going to talk is one simple thing, which is people, okay, in the past look into the membrane as expensive material. So maybe it's not that familiar to you, but if you talk to the people in industry of water treatment or in the chemical industry, whenever we come and suggest the membrane technology, they will say that forget about it. It is expensive. Okay, and then not only expensive. If you run the operation, okay, you will have a lot of problem, and the problem they call as membrane fouling here. So membrane fouling is actually the main cause that decrease the performance over time. Okay, not only that, because of it is expensive, okay, they will try to use as small as possible size, basically to maximize the productivity. If they go the highest possible flux, then they come up with a complex operation. So if you operate membrane, you have a lot of cycles here. You have a filtration cycles, a maintenance cycles, maintenance cleaning cycle, intensive cleaning cycle, and so on and so forth. And that's make that not only expensive, but also complicated. Okay, and in operation sometimes they will involve in situ cleaning. In situ cleaning means that you do cleaning all the time, and then this cleaning lead to the quite high energy consumption. For example, they use this video. I hope you can see it clearly. It uses a lot of air bubbles to score off the cleaning, to score off the pollen that stick on the membrane surface. Okay, but as I don't know in detail, but this is an example of the complication and how much energy required to sustain the operation. So what is the new paradigm? So due to the development of technologies in preparing membrane material, we can actually see membrane as low-cost material. Okay, so consequently, since it is a low cost, I can still afford to run at low productivity. So instead of, for example, having 10 square meter of membrane with a flux of 10 liter per square meter, I can run the membrane with 100 square meter of membrane and run it at flux of 1. Okay, so those are the things. So if we do that, okay, we will be able to run the system in low complexity. This is an example of price of membrane. The source is from Alibaba. You can, it is in your fingertips. You can just click flat sheet membrane, and you'll see the cost is much cheaper than what people believe. Okay, So, and then it is, I call it readily available and affordable. This is a workshop we have in Indonesia that actually it is easy to build. You can buy the part. It's available. Okay, and I've trained my student to do many of the membrane installation. This one, it was in Yogyakarta. This one, it was in Malaysia. It was in and many others. This one was in Lombok and so on. Okay, so this brings me to my last part of the talk, which is the sustainable membrane process. So what is sustainable membrane process? So we try to run the system at low flux, low pressure, and consequently low energy. We try to operate it as simple as possible. Okay, if possible, let it run by itself. You don't need to clean. You don't need to apply any chemicals, and still we can maintain. There will be no problem. So no cleaning, no chemical, no problem. We should aim for the long-lasting material because we don't clean a lot. We can maintain the material to last longer. Then we can use things that previously was a problem, which was biofilm. I will not talk into detail, and make it as friend. So instead of make it as your enemy, why don't you make it as your friend? Then we can also implement innovative engineering, and then probably develop the material and make it even cheaper from waste material. Okay, this is not my work. One of the breakthrough study was done by a group of researchers in Switzerland in 2010, when they actually run the filtration with, they call it gravity driven. So basically you don't apply pressure. The filtration is driven simply by the hydrostatic pressure of water. So hydrostatic pressure we learn in when we study physics in high school. I think it's a density times the gravity times the height. So the height here, that is drive the filtration. So you can imagine you have water here, okay, and then the height, the different height, give a pressure in this, and then you can produce a membrane. So what they found was that they could run the filtration for about a month at a flux of about 10. Okay, listen, so maintain, this is 10. And what does that mean? So it's mean that it's not really far away from the classical operation of membrane. Previously, if you run the membrane with high flux and a lot of cleanings, a lot of maintenance, it was at a range of 20 to 30. So it's just 50% less. But the good side is that you don't need to do anything. It runs by itself. The performance is constant for a month. You don't need to do any cleaning, any membrane replacement, and so on. So inspired by this study, so I developed my work. Okay, the first one. So we try to treat cassava processing wastewater. This work involved Universitas Gajah Mada in Yogyakarta. So the idea was it's a gravity driven. So we try to run with as low pressure as possible, and we run at different height. You see here, this is the water head of just 22 centimeter, 32 centimeter, and 1 meter. And what we found is that, if you can see on the right side here on this slide, so if there will be no significant difference in terms of productivity whether you run it at 22 centimeter, 32 centimeter, and 1 meter. And then if you run for a long time, it will reach some stable value. Okay, we run it for about 45 days at a flux of around 1 to 2. So this is probability. So this is at probability of 10. Okay. So this one of the implementation of this work. Then recently we run the same system for the filtration of laundry wastewater. You see here, it's very simple. We use a pump to circulate the laundry wastewater, and the membrane we use, we got it. So this membrane is the one we use for drinking water filter. The cost is only 50,000 rupiah, and then the rest of the setup is we just do it ourselves. So the cost to run this filtration will probably less than 500,000 rupiah. So $50 US. And we try to run and do the filtration of laundry wastewater. And we also found the same things. Actually, we can achieve high productivity at lower flux. Okay. For example, here, the pressure is 60 kilopascal, and then you can have a probability of around 500 liter per square meter per hour per bar. That's corresponding to the flux of about 50. That's quite high. And then if you run at 10 kilopascal, you lose the performance almost by twice. So what we found here is that running the filtration at very low flux gives a lot of advantages. And we also test the hypothesis of ultra low pressure system for the filtration of this one is microalgae, which is Chlorella vulgaris. And what we found was, if you look into here, this is a pressure. This is a 2.5 kilopascal, and then the extreme pressure here is at 19 kilopascal. You see, the probability is actually much higher if you run the system at a very low pressure. Okay, we implement the same system, but now we introduce some aeration for the constant membrane cleaning. We do it at also low pressure, which is less than 0.1 bar. That is corresponding to the height of about 1 meter of waterhead. We run it at and if you look here into the system, so we implement the small aeration to enhance the flux, and we'll see that actually a small innovation of tilting the membrane, combine it with low pressure, will also help to increase the productivity of the membrane. Okay, so next I move on to different topic of the study. So the idea was like when I was in Indonesia, when I see that most of our domestic wastewater is not treated. Most of the time it is sent to the, for example, in Jakarta, to the canal, and we don't do anything to it. We rely on the nature to degrade pollutants. So I say maybe we can do something on that one, and then there's a technology to treat water called as RBC. It's rotating biological contactor. This video highlight how it works. Okay, how it works. So it's basically we use a disc to cultivate microorganism, and the microorganism is actually used to degrade the pollutants. And what we do was try to combine, and then the process will run for. It's combined with a lot of units. So what we do basically is to combine 1 to 3 units here and use our core technology, which is membrane, in what we call as a membrane rotating biological contactor. So the idea is that we can intensify the process, okay, by combining these 3 units into 1 unit and still achieve substantial performance. If you look into our probability data here, okay, this is basically the flux, the rate of filtration. By by combining the membrane filtration with RBC, we'll be able to increase the performance almost double by 92.4%. Okay, and if you want to see more, you can look into the publication list we put on the slide. It's bringing to the final part of the presentation. It is on how to further improve the sustainability of the process, which is by utilizing the waste, okay, polymeric material to make a membrane. What we noticed was that the cigarette filter, the one that litters, that is littered a lot, actually contain cellulose acetate, and cellulose acetate is actually a material to make a commercial membrane. So what we tried was my student, we collected the cigarette filters, we clean the filters, separate the tobacco, separate the wraps, separate the burn tips, and then we end up with a clean cigarette filter here. We clean it several times with hot water, then dry it in an oven, and we use this material to make membrane. Okay, what we do is we blend it with a chemical called as a solvent. This is the step. We blend it until it's homogeneous, and then we make a film. So this is how actually the membrane is made. We make a film, and then we make a film with you see that the casting rod, and you will see it's end up with this brownish colored film. If you immerse this film, or this is wet film, into water, it will end up with a solid membrane like this one. So we managed to make a physically nice membrane from cigarette waste, and then we test the performance and we compare to the commercial polymer, which is a polysulfur in PPDF. It doesn't differ a lot. Okay, it doesn't differ a lot, and when we do the testing, actually, we achieve somewhat better performance. As you can see, this is the modified membrane. Okay, to conclude. So what I can say is that I refers back to the paradigm shifting I discussed earlier, that the dramatic decrease in membrane material costs changed people paradigm in operation and designing membrane process, and we could develop a system with low in pressure, flux, and low in energy consumption. We can have a process with simple operation, okay, without any maintenance, cleaning, membrane replacement for quite a long time. We don't need chemical, you don't need cleaning, and then we can different of the biofilm. By implementing all those above, we will manage to have a long-lasting material, and we can also further develop the sustainability of membrane process through the innovative engineering. And then if we can commercialize membrane from waste, we surely can further decrease the cost of the membrane dramatically. So in each of my slides, I think I've shared a slide to the committee. If you, I provide with a link to the publication. And then I'm proud to say that all of this work has been published to the top journal on the field. And then if you notice, we don't invest a lot in doing this research. And most of this research, apart from this one, those were done by final year undergraduate student. Okay, I think that's all. I hope I managed my time well. If you have any question, I'll be very happy to answer.
Okay. Wow. Thank you, Dr. Roil. That's an amazing idea. What a great presentation. Thank you. And Dr. Roil, hello?
Yeah, yes.
Okay. The question and answer will be after the second presenter, so I hope you be patient to have it. And then, wow, this is wonderful ideas. Beliau told us about membrane technology to solve the global warming and also how do we change our paradigm, especially about water and wastewater, and also he suggested us to use and also develop new technology for global water problem, and which is low cost and also no chemicals, no problems, and also long life material. This is wonderful. Thank you, Dr. Roil. We go to the second speaker. The second keynote speaker will be Dr. Donnie Adams from University Malaya. Hello. Hello, Dr. Donnie Adams.
Hi, good morning.
Hello, good morning, sir. Hello, are you ready? How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm fine too. Thank you. So, are you ready for the presentation?
Absolutely.
Okay. Well, before going to the presentation, I would like to read a brief curriculum vitae of him. Dr. Donnie Adams is a senior lecturer of Department of Education, Management, Planning and Policy, Faculty of Education, University Malaya, and he completed his PhD on educational and school leadership educations at University Malaya, and his specialization and expertise is mixed method, research, analysis, e-learning, education policy, management, administration, and special educations. And he's also the committee member of or for Expert Faculty of Educations, and he's also as the editor for some journals. And today he's going to present a topic on reimagining school leadership in post-pandemic times. Wow, hopefully we can learn a lot from this topic. What should we do next dealing with our educational situation today? The time is yours, 30 minutes to present, then we go to question and answer. Audience, please, tolong mahasiswa tidak perlu tulis-tulis nama kelas, absen nanti daftar hadir pasti ada, so you don't need to introduce yourself. If you have any questions, feel free to write in the chat box or comment section in the YouTube. Thank you. The time is yours. Hello?
Okay, thank you very much. A very good morning to everyone, and thank you to our moderator for this morning. Firstly, I'm very happy to be part of the first international seminar on education, technology, and arts. And I'm Donnie Adams from the Faculty of Education, University of Malaya. And for this morning, I'll be presenting on a topic about reimagining school leadership in post-pandemic times. So let me take you through this important presentation this morning. Firstly, what we can see here that we are talking about change. And when we talk about change, change is constant in the world today. There's always change, and we can see that there are always conditions for change. There are times for change as well. But there, in tune with change, there are also resistance to change. So there are people who find it difficult to change. There are people who find it difficult to accept change. So due to the pandemic, for example, there is a lot of number of cases that is rising. Every day we can see that there are cases that is going high, and sometimes there are cases that is going low. So there's constant changes in our society today, and this change is very much due to the COVID-19 pandemic that many countries around the world are undergoing at the moment. So people at first, they were very resistant towards change. When most of our governments implemented the standard operating procedure, SOPs, and we were required to quarantine at home to curb or to limit the spread of the COVID-19, we can see that there were a lot of protests in many parts of the world. You know, people were protesting, people were not happy with the government, people want to be free, people want to go around and live their normal life. And also we see that part of the SOPs, we were required to wear face masks, and there were people who were also resistant towards wearing face masks. They feel that it is their human rights to do as what they feel is necessary and do what they like. So they feel that they should have a choice, and they should not be instructed, and they should be not be limited to all these SOPs. So under normal conditions, change is actually very slow. Under normal conditions, change is actually very uncertain. And sometimes this change can take months and sometimes years. But under special circumstances and conditions, for example, like the COVID-19 pandemic, we can see that change is very fast and change is very constant. So what we envision education should be. Before the pandemic, we were looking at catchphrases. We were looking at interesting phrases, catchphrases such as reimagining education. So it sounds very grand. We also see terms or phrases such as revitalizing education. And of course, the most commonly known phrase is 21st century education. So all these three phases seems to be very popular before the pandemic. People were talking about how do we train our students to think at a higher order. For example, higher order thinking skills. We were looking at how could we revise our assessment? How could we revise our curriculum, especially to groom future talents and future capabilities? We were also looking at how we could utilize education technologies, and we were going into the era of virtual reality. We're going into the era of augmented reality. So these were some of the ideas, and this was some of the thinking about how we could envision education. But unfortunately, all of us went into what we call the new normal in education. And what is the new normal in education? What can we see here? Here we have a picture of a lecture hall, and these pictures shows that the facilities are there, the infrastructure are there, but the people are missing. The teachers are missing. So what has happened that learning no longer takes place in lecture halls. Learning no longer takes place in classrooms. So no one has ever really imagined or reimagined education before the pandemic will be like this, where we see universities and campuses meant for delivering and receiving education being abandoned, being made redundant, and also to a certain extent being made totally useless. Now, this is the context of a university. But what happens in school? So similarly in schools, we can see that there are many tables and chairs that were there in the schools, and these were made for our children, okay, to sit and to undergo their learning in schools. Over time, these tables and chairs were also left empty, and over time, the conditions also deteriorated. The physical conditions of these facilities deteriorated due to the limited usage, and due to the limited, shall I say, we have abandoned these facilities for quite some time, and due to that, the conditions have deteriorated badly. But this is the new normal. So we have never really imagined education to be like this. We imagine education to be a totally different aspect. For example, like what I told, 21st century education, reimagining education, reinventing education. But none of us ever saw the new normal in education to be like this. None of us ever foresaw that there will be a pandemic that impacts the world. And when we say that a pandemic that impacts the world, as of April 15, we can see that there are 191 governments all across the world responding to the COVID-19 pandemic by closing their schools. Now, what happens when they close their schools? So we could see that there are 1.6 billion children that is affected. Affected as in they're not able to go to school. Affected as in their education system, their education on a daily basis is affected. They are not able to learn as effectively as how they have learned before. So what was the trigger that caused 191 governments and 1.6 billion children to be affected in their education? And we can see that, is it because of there were months of planning and discussion? So a lot of discussion held between the ministers, a lot of discussion held between teachers and parents and principals. Were there months and months of planning and discussion? Or were there a lot of consultation with experts? Did we consult lots of experts and come to this new normal of education? Did we have a lot of training and professional development programs that has now enabled us to transition into a new normal like this? Or here, did we do some experiments and say that, hey, this is a more effective way of education? Did we do a pre and post test to evaluate the effectiveness of this new education? Or was the trigger more on a lot of research has been done, a lot of surveys has been done, and we find that this new normal of education is the most effective? Or this is one of my personal favorite, is it because of a new education minister where we have this new normal in education? So the answer is actually none of this. None of this was the trigger of the new normal of education. But what we know is the trigger was this COVID-19 virus. So something that is so small, that is naked to our eyes, that we couldn't see it in a physical sense, it brought the whole world to a complete standstill. So a lot of industries, a lot of organizations, they had to change. They had to innovate in order to meet this new challenge. And we can see that in order to change and innovate to meet this new challenge, it has had a great effect on our education system. So how do we actually manage this transition? So we can see that when we are leading in a crisis, when school leaders are needed to lead their school in a crisis, it's never easy, because leading in a crisis, sometimes you need to be able to handle your emotion. You must be somebody who is strategic. You must be able to plan ahead. So it's quite difficult to actually lead in a crisis. It's never easy. And sometimes in very hard times, the most inedible imprints on a leader's identity is left. So a leader's real capability can be seen, especially during this crisis. So decisions were made during this crisis will likewise shape a leader's identity. What decisions is made by the leaders, especially during this time, shape and defines their leadership, shape and defines their identity. And it will tell a story that will leave a trace after a very long time. So we could see that here, there is three phases how we could manage the transition. So the first one is to completely let go. The first one is to completely surrender and say that we are doomed and there's nothing that we could do, and just wait for the virus to die off before resuming our education system as how it is. Or we could go into the neutral zone. We could be in the neutral zone where most of our school leaders are in here, and here we are thinking about how do we adjust, how do we recalibrate, how do we re-innovate our education system, and how do we re-innovate our leadership style in order for us to adjust to this new challenge. And once we are able to adjust the challenges that we face in the neutral zone, we are able to transition to the new beginning, which is the new normal that we have today. But the new normal keeps changing. Every day we have constant changes, and the changes still happens until today. So what were the challenges that is faced by our school leaders across the world? What were the types of limbo that they were in, and that made them have very limited time to adjust? So the first thing is, we can see that one of the challenge faced by school leaders is that they needed to accept that schools and education does not only happens in schools. Education is now beyond schools because schools needed to be closed. And the reason why schools are closed is to curb the spread of the COVID-19 pandemic. And when schools are closed, it means that education now takes place at home. And this means that homeschooling is now the only option. So you do not have a choice where you could choose which you would like to do and what you would like to do. We did not have a choice. There was nothing to choose from. It was just about taking the best option and the only option that was made available. So homeschooling basically was a complete new challenge. It was a massive shock to many of our school leaders. It was a massive shock to both parents and children because they had to change much of their social life and they had to change much about what they have known, how learning could take place and how learning should take place. Another challenge that was faced by our school leaders that teaching is now needed to move to an online platform. And this is very much on an untested and unprecedented scale. There was not much research, dialogue, there was not much consultation that was done. It was a sudden change. Everything just had to transition online, and there was not much preparation made on this. Teachers were not very equipped with online technologies, with online teaching, and our students and parents were also not very equipped with this whole new transition. So it was an untested and unprecedented move. And we can see that across many education systems around the world, and I believe this is very much a problem in Indonesia as well, where internet connectivity was a big problem. So there were some households or some children who had very good internet connectivity and they could follow the online classes. There were some houses and households where internet connectivity was a big problem and that students were not able to follow their education. Another challenge that was faced by school leaders is that they needed to see that all students are catered for, all students are taken care of. And we can see that there were many students that were affected. And one of the groups of students that was particularly affected is the children with special education needs, children with autism, children with Down syndrome, children with ADHD. All these children are children with special education needs. And we can see that the whole online teaching has really affected these children because these children have a specialized program and have a specialized curriculum. So without the presence of being in school and without the presence of their teachers, they needed time, more time to adjust to the new normal. And this has led to increased inequality where first education system was catering to both groups of students, but now the whole online learning transition is now predominantly catering to the needs of the normal children, whereas those who are special education needs are perhaps very much left behind, okay, because they are not able to cope with the new transition to online learning. Another challenge that is faced by our school leaders is due to the limited devices. They needed to ensure that each children at home have adequate devices. They have enough devices available to students and parents at home. So just imagine that you have a family of 4 to 5 children at home. If you have 4 to 5 children at home, that will easily mean that you need 4 to 5 devices per household. And we know that many parents could not afford to have 4 to 5 devices at home. So they needed to have some rotation where the elders are given priority to follow the education. Elders are given priority to undergo the online classes, whereas the young ones were perhaps neglected and the young ones were perhaps told that, you could let go of this for now and give a priority to your elders. So there needs to be some form of bargaining. There needs to be some form of balancing between this. So this is one of the challenge that school leaders face to ensure that teaching learning continues for all types of children and for all children, and to ensure that no child is left behind. And we can see that this is one of the quotation, this is one of the sharing that was said by the principal. I must tell you that Zoom, Skype, Google Meet, none was ever installed by my teachers and students. They have not heard of this at all. The most they understand was Google Classroom, but it was not used widely at all. So here we can see that all these popular applications, Zoom as what we are using today, Skype, Google Meet, none was ever heard or not as popular as what we are hearing now before the pandemic. Most teachers are not familiar with all these applications. So this principle is telling that the only application that they're very much familiar is Google Classroom, and whereas the rest are not as familiar to them. So this was also a very great challenge faced by school leaders, because they are not only needing to manage the teaching and learning of their students, they are also needed to manage the expectation of their teachers and to help them to transition to this online learning environment. Another challenge that is faced by school leaders, they themselves are lost. The school principals themselves are lost, because in this whole era of pandemic, there was no principal leadership preparation courses that prepared our school leaders for this crisis. There was no module, there was no subject that talked about how to lead your school in a pandemic. So they are completely in uncharted territory. And one of the principals says that there is panic. People were panicked, and people were saying that this is something that is totally new and something that was totally unexpected. And another principal says, I am lost. What do I do? So these were some of the challenges, and you can see that apart from balancing the students, they were also needed to balance the teaching and learning of the students. They also needed to balance the teaching and learning of the teachers. They were also needed to balance their very own emotions, and they needed to balance their very own perception about how do I move forward and how do I lead the school. So there was tremendous challenge faced by our school leaders looking into all this aspect. And this is where we talk about what exactly is in the neutral zone in terms of emotions. So we could see that here before, when the pandemic was first hit many countries and hit many schools, resulting in the closure of schools and the transition to online learning and teaching, we can see that these were the emotions that was felt by our students, our teachers, and our school leaders, where they will see that there's a lot of denial, there's a lot of anxiety, there was emotions of shock, there was fear, they were fear whether they could even overcome this. And you can see that the productivity has somehow dropped because as the emotions are not dealt with, as the emotions are here, the productivity has somehow dropped. And when this has dropped, we have now entered the neutral zone, okay, where you can see that there are emotions such as frustration, confusion, stress, okay, but here we are gradually improving. So from this beginning to the middle stage of neutral zone, the emotions are gradually improving from negative into something that is a little bit more positive. So we can see that principals now has adopted an approach avoidance kind of thinking, where they think about what to avoid and what best way to approach in terms of leading their schools, especially during the current pandemic. And once you have reached this stage, you go into a stage where there is creativity. So here, we cannot move to creativity unless we manage the neutral zone well. So this is the emotions during the neutral zone. So what we are trying to say that unless you manage this emotion well, you are not able to be creative. So we need to deal with emotions in the neutral zone before we move on to creativity and new beginnings. And what are some of the new beginnings emotions? There is, of course, some form of skepticism. There will be some form of acceptance. There will be some impatience here and there, but as long along the way, you have hope, you have energy, and of course, you have enthusiasm to do things in a much different way for the better of our teachers and students. So basically, what I'm saying that at this moment of time, our school leaders should focus on Maslow before Bloom. So we know that Maslow is the Maslow hierarchy of needs, where what we know as Maslow's psychological needs here. Now, when we talk about Maslow hierarchy of needs, and what I mean by leaders should focus on Maslow before Bloom, Bloom is what we know as Bloom taxonomy of learning. Here is Maslow's hierarchy of needs. So instead of focusing on the learning, which is Bloom taxonomy, and talking about higher order thinking, how to learn effectively, lesson plans and all, our leaders should actually focus on the Maslow's hierarchy of needs first. So when we talk about the first stage, basically we are meeting the basic needs of our teachers and students first, before focusing on student achievement scores, before focusing on education learning objectives. So at the first stage of psychological needs, we can see that leaders can better lead their schools if they set very clear priorities and if they empower their teachers to discover and to implement solutions that serve those priorities. So we need to set immediate objectives of the school. We need to ensure that the objective that we set is immediately attainable, immediately achievable before we set new ones. So for example, in Malaysia, one of the procedures will be the entire school community must be vaccinated before they are allowed to school. And this is not just the principal, this is not just the students, this is not just the teachers. The entire school community includes the office staffs and even includes the janitors, the cleaners of the school. So this is something that school leaders need to do. We need to address the psychological needs of the school community by ensuring that vaccination is done and setting priorities there. Next is, we look at the next level of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, we are focusing on safety needs. So there is a need to update on daily cases, follow SOP, for example, temperature screening, you have 1 meter distancing, sanitizing, face masks, health promotion such as mental health. Another crucial part of the leader's role is about promoting psychological needs of their teachers, parents, and students so that they can openly discuss ideas, they can openly ask questions, and they can immediately express their concerns without any fear of repercussions.
I'm sorry,
The next
sir.
one.
Hello? 5 minutes more. Sorry.
All right, okay, thank you. The next one is to focus on love and belonging. And this is about communicating early and frequently. It's not about just your decisions, but also the rationale for them. So there is certain trade-offs. There is certain things that we need to do. And here is about basically communicating clearly. What do you intend of your teachers? Communicating clearly to involve your teachers in the whole process as well. And finally, we have esteem, where leaders are focusing on collaboration, leaders are focusing on transparency across the school community. And in this case, we are consolidating decision making among our teachers as well. So what are some of the school practices? The first thing is to focus on a positive and courageous mindset. And here, when we talk about resilience, is the capacity of our school leaders to recover quickly from any difficulties and toughness that they face. And you can see that one of the best thing is to, instead of saying I can't do it, is to say I can do it. And here, one of the principals shares that this whole pandemic has given him or her the opportunity to handle things in a much challenging situation. Positive mindset. And here we are talking about building positive relationship with the teachers and students, trusting our teachers back again. And here we can look at other aspects such as trust and understanding are especially important, especially during this whole transition to a new normal and the transition back into going and reopening of the schools. And here we can look at, now is the time for us to review what are the sort of school strategic plans that needs to be revised, and what are the sort of targets of student achievement that needs to be revised as well. So whatever that has been set before the pandemic has to be revised and has to be looked into again, so that it's more realistic and set according to a post-pandemic era. There is a need to review the curriculum as well, and of course there is a need to restructure the teaching plan. But in terms of leadership styles, what is the leadership styles that we are looking at? There must be a focus on instructional leadership, and through the literature we know that instructional leadership is the most prominent approach, is the most prominent style in terms of sustaining our student learning. And not just instructional leadership, our school leaders should also practice distributed leadership, so that all teachers, their assistants, senior assistants, their assistant principals, the head of departments, the subject leaders, all of them are together in this situation. They are leading their schools together. So it's not really a one-man show. When we talk about distributed leadership, it's about the authority and the power being distributed equally among the leaders of the school, so that they could make decisions with authority, and they could conduct lessons, then they could conduct decisions based on their competencies. And finally, we are looking at leadership in post-pandemic times, focusing specifically on students' well-being, and we are looking at how are students progressing in their learning. So we are talking about learning loss and how do we overcome these types of learning loss. We are looking at improving teachers' well-being and solving problems through classroom instructions. And finally, the task of school leaders, especially in the post-pandemic, is to focus on school operations, in ensuring that our school community is clean, our school community is healthy, and our school community is safe. So that's all for me this morning. So I would like to end my presentation with a quote. It takes a great deal of consciousness from principals in a post-pandemic era to maintain a balance that is neither too negative nor overly optimistic. So school leaders, you're doing a fantastic job. And I think that for us as the community, it's important for us to support our school leaders and our teachers, especially in the transition to a post-pandemic era. Okay, so thank you very much, everyone.
Wow, thank you, Dr. Donnie Adams. Wow, this is a great presentation. Please give a huge applause for Dr. Donnie Adams. And audience participants, we go to 20 minutes question and answer. We will have some questions addressed to Dr. Roil and also Dr. Donnie Adams. Okay. We can also check in the comment section in the chat box. The first questions to Dr. Roil from Agustina Lestari. So it deals with the challenge in using the technology. So what will be the challenge in using the technology? And then for Dr. Donnie Adams, it is still from Ibu Agustina. How to deal, from Dadit Enggar, how to deal with students' depressions when they have learning problems due to the change of online learning or to face-to-face learning. And then questions for Mr. Donnie. Also, what is the importance of your research for education? Thank you. Okay. So we go to the first answer from those two speakers. From Dr. Roil, would you like to answer first? From Ibu Agustina. So what is the challenge in using the technology that you have explained?
Thank you, Mrs. Agustina, for the questions. It's not the challenge will probably be universally valid to many of new developed technologies. Yeah, So the main challenge is how to translate the good performance in research to the application. It's a quite complex things because we need to convince the user, the final user, that it really works. And normally, research is done at a very low scale, probably a few liters of feed to filter. And the application, we think about the magnitude of 10,000 to 100,000 times of those capacity. So a user, because the user feel like I need to invest money with it, and they have no margin of error. So it has to be working on the first time of trial. So that is quite a big challenge in convincing the final user to adopt new technologies. So I think that scale up won't be a problem, and then available of supporting technologies will be no problem. That's convincing one, and another one is probably the challenge in educating the user. Okay, if you want to convince someone to do something the first time, it is not only you convince them in terms of scientifically, rationally, but you need to impose some kind of. I think the best word is to educate them, and then to make them believe that it will work. Because if you never see it, nobody adopt the technology before, and you will start to ask questions. Is it never adopted because of it doesn't work, or because of what? If it's really good, then someone else must have been done that one before. So those sort of pessimistic notion will always be there, not only on the technologies that I have developed, but also it will be applicable universally to other new technologies developed anywhere by anyone. I hope that answer Ms. Agustina's questions.
Okay, so some problems is about convincing the users, and then how we adopt new technology and convincing people to utilize these kinds of technology. That's it, Ibu Tina. Thank you, Dr. Roil. We go to Dr. Donnie Adams. The first question was about student depressions, and also Ibu Agustina also delivered questions to Mr. Donnie Adams, which is what do you think? What will happen to our education institution when the pandemic is over? When the pandemic ends? So, two questions perhaps to Dr. Donnie Adams.
Okay, thank you very much for this question. What do you think will happen to our education institutions when the pandemic finally ends? A lot of people are talking about we just pressing the reset button and going back to education as how it was before the pandemic. For me, that will never happen because education has evolved. The way that students learn has evolved. The way that teachers and lecturers teach has also evolved. And the way that our curriculum is delivered and the way our students are assessed has also evolved. So I don't think that we will ever go back to the way how education was taught before the pandemic. There's a lot of changes and innovations that was done to the teaching and learning delivery and to the curriculum. So there will definitely be change, and there will definitely be this change is here to stay. That's what I'm trying to say. We are not going to go back to how education was before the pandemic. And to answer the next question, will the policy and education system return to the one before the pandemic? No, definitely no, because we can see that a lot of institutions that was not used to online teaching and learning have now adopted online and teaching and learning. And now we have seen new forms of learning delivery, such as micro-credential courses. We can see that remote learning is being implemented now. So what was not possible before is now possible after the pandemic. So definitely things are not going to be the same, and it's not going to return to situation before the pandemic.
Thank you, Dr. Donnie. So I think we have such kinds of positive mindset that the education doesn't end because of the pandemic. And then we still to Mr. Donnie Adam. This is from Bapak Mulyadi. He's senior lecturer of STKIP PGRI Banjarmasin. What do you think of the role of parents, either in the pandemic era or post-era? Is there a lot of parents complaining loss of teacher roles helping in their children in learning, instead complaining about other things as you stated? So the role of parents, either in during pandemic and post-pandemic.
Okay. Firstly, I think that the whole pandemic now has brought a sort of awareness to our parents that how it is like to be in a teacher's shoes. Previously, perhaps there was a little bit of hands-off approach, as in they do not know what is exactly happening in schools and what is the learning styles and how are their child's learning, what is their behavior, and in terms of what is the kind of strategies and ways to teach their child. But in the pandemic, they are required to teach their child at home. They are required to be the facilitators of their children learning at home. And for me, this has awakened about what exactly is the role of teachers. This has awakened the parents to really understand about what it is like to teach their child and how difficult it is to teach their child. So moving forward, it's always important for parents to play a supporting role to teachers, as in ensuring that the learning of their children is done effectively, not just in schools, the learning of their children is done effectively at home as well. So parents, instead of them complaining, it's quite important for them to collaborate, for them to work together, because the benefit is only going to be for their children, nothing else.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Donnie Adams. So instead of complaining, we can use such kinds of innovation in teaching, and then perhaps how we convince our student that we can move on from this situation. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Pak Mulyadi. Beliau is a senior lecturer. Okay, we go to Muhammad Faisal, still for Mr. Donnie Adam, Professor Adam. Okay, you know there is some difference, yeah, when we learn in the school and when we learn in home. At home, some people will more focus to do the work if they have different environment. Like when they work, they do in workplace, and then when they get rest in the bedroom. This is so. What is the question? Is there anything we can do about it to make some focus when we are not in the place that we make us comfortable? Oh, so it deals with the concentrations, the focus during learning when we are lying down in the bedroom, and then while learning, we have such kinds of less concentrations and focus. So how do you see these things, sir?
Okay, I think this is a very interesting question. It's about creating the environment for learning. So I think what this question says that in school, we know that there's only one objective of being in school, which is to focus on learning. Whereas at home, we have a different environment. So we want to learn, but when we see our bed and our bedroom, we feel like sleeping. So this is the situation that we have. So I think it's quite important that for us to create an environment at home. If you're going to be at home, is to create an environment at home that facilitates your learning. So in the house, do you have a corner or do you have a place in your home in which you could be there, and that place helps you to focus on getting your work done, and helps you focus on especially in the teaching and learning process. So for me personally, it was a challenge when the pandemic first started, where I needed to work from home, but I'm able to cope personally by working from home because I created my own place, and that place has to be consistent. You cannot keep on changing your place. So create a consistent place in your home where you know that that place is a place for you to learn and for you to study, and creating that sort of condition and place on a permanent and consistent basis. That means you only have that one place and you're not keep on changing. That helps in a way for you to focus and to get your tasks done one thing at a time.
Thank you, Mr. Dana. That's great explanation. So, audience, we are so sorry because we have a limited time, and actually, it is wonderful moment to discuss about the topic today, and especially for Dr. Adam and also for Dr. Rael. And perhaps we, before going further to the second plenary sections, I would like to invite Dr. Roil to give a closing statement or a little bit summary to close his presentations, and also the Dr. Adam.
Okay, I think I imagine it was a bit hard for you to follow detail on my talk, but the message is that if we know very well what we do, we will be able to come up with ideas that is simple enough to further advance research in that field, and it doesn't have to be highly expensive. It doesn't have to be complex. Okay, and we can always get inspiration from what we see around us, and use us to the benefit of what we are doing. And lastly, I think it's very important to always harness our motivation and do what we do best in a very good and best attention. That's from me.
Thank you, Dr. Roil. And Dr. Adams, would you like to deliver a little bit closing statement for our audience today?
Yep. So firstly, thank you for this invitation to be part of the international seminar on education, technology, and arts. My final statement will be to let us focus on the current and the future. So it's not about looking back and thinking that can we go back to how things were. Things will never go back to the normal as what we know before the pandemic. So it's about accepting the change, and it's about embracing the future, and it's about us working together towards a better future. So yes, the pandemic has disrupted a lot of our education system. The pandemic has changed a lot of the way that teaching and learning is done, but it's about mostly embracing the change and making things better rather than embracing the change, questioning, and going back to the mindset that we had before the pandemic. So it's now, education is never going to be the same. As part of this conference team, that is the future of work post COVID-19, the future of education post COVID-19. So we should be focusing on the future rather than focusing on the past. So that will be my take. So thank you very much, everyone, and I hope we could be connected and meet again in future seminars.
Okay, thank you. Before I close these sessions, we would like to present a certificate for the two presenters, the two speakers today. Committee. So the first, please a huge applause to Dr. Muhammad Roil Bilad. Thank you, Dr. Muhammad Roil Bilad, for your valuable presentations today. What an creative ideas dealing with water and wastewater energy. And then the second keynote speaker would like to say thank you so much for Dr. Donnie Adams. Okay, please give a huge applause to Mr. Donnie Adams. Thank you very much, Doctor, for joining with us here. And hopefully this is not the end of our meeting. We can have a different occasion to have to discuss and learn everything, especially in education, science, and technology. Once again, thank you so much. And audience, we go to the next two speakers. We still have second plenary sessions, and the second sessions will be led by Ibu Nana Suciati M.Pd. And that's it for me. Thank you and see you on the next occasion.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for still being with us so far. So we come to our second session, and then we have two keynote speakers in this session. The first one is Professor Dr. Unifah Rosyidi, M.Pd, and the second speaker will be Dr. Haji Alimuddin Djawad, M.Hum. Ibu Unifah, selamat pagi, Ibu. Halo, Ibu.
Yes, please. I'm so sorry. Selamat pagi.
Selamat pagi, Ibu. Bagaimana kabarnya hari ini? How are you?
Yeah, I'm very well, thank you. Not sorry, I'm late because we have so many cases here today, and I'm trying to share with you all our Indonesian experience during in the pandemic and also after the pandemic, what we have to do.
So it is a very tiring day, ya Bu ya.
Almost every day. Yes, please.
Okay. Ibu is going to be the first speaker today, and then brief information about Ibu Unifah Rosyidi is right now she is the chief of pengurus besar PGRI, and then she teaches at Universitas Negeri Jakarta, ya Bu ya. Okay. And then she focused her research on educational management. So without any further time again, let's listen from Ibu Unifah Rosyidi. Okay, Ibu, time is yours.
Terima kasih ya. Should I speak in Bahasa or in English?
Well, as you wish, you can share the two of the language. You can use Bahasa Inggris or you can use Bahasa Indonesia as well.
Okay.
Just feel free.
Thank you, thank you. First of all, thank you very much for inviting me to be one of speakers, and I really appreciate what this occasion, and I do agree with the previous speakers that we have to focus on the next post-pandemic. But I just came here and then just took some minutes for hearing the very meaningful what we call as closing statement from the speakers. So I would present the presentation with Bahasa and also in Bahasa Inggris, both, yeah. Then you can translate it into English if I speak in Bahasa Indonesia. Then, sorry, I will share first share screen. Okay. So actually, I will, no, it's, ya, kayaknya aku banyak banget teleponnya, tolong dong. Oke, saya akan coba untuk menyampaikan Indonesian experience education in Indonesia, the challenge toward upcoming and post-pandemic era. I will speak in both in English and also in Bahasa Indonesia. And I prepared a presentation. I think it's many slides here. So we just take some of the slides, then we discuss. I think better. So how long I have to speak in this presentation, Ibu? Berapa lama? Ibu, you hear me?
Yes.
Berapa lama, Bu?
You have 25 minutes, Ibu.
Oh, 25 minutes. So, I will start from the problem of teachers in Indonesia. It is very typical Indonesia. I think different with many other countries. This is about related with the number and deployment of teachers. We have actually more than 250,000 schools across the country, so at least more than 3 million under MONE, Ministry of Education, and 1 million under MOE, Ministry of Education, and MURA, Ministry of Education and Religious. It is. So, but then after 10 years without any recruitment of teachers, now it is also one of the problem, because when we talk about the quality of teachers, we do agree that at least the number, the qualification, distribution is enough for conducting teaching and learning. And it is one the biggest problem in our country. So it is. So we can see, or we have seen the data from the internet about PISA and everything, and it is our big homework actually. So then during pandemic and after pandemic, I think there are a lot of problems. So we have to do, and we have to think, and we have to sit together to solve the problem. Yeah, we can see also about the Indonesia is faces a very limited access to higher education. I think comparing with my neighbors, Thailand, Malaysia, Indonesia still below than you all. So only how many percentage? Let me see. Yeah, 8.34%. The average of Indonesian citizens are in the higher education. Then we can see also that only it is relevant with the in the manpower. Then we can see it is 8.5% of or about 15.5 millions, yeah, education at a higher education of the total 15 years older than the Indonesian population. It is also one of the big problems facing of us. Then when we were entering in the pandemic era, and in the pandemic situation, COVID-19, so we can see the problem actually. The problem is, it is very good, I think it's summarized from the government. It is regarding with the content. There was content gap, yeah, the gaps of the provision of content, learning resources, and learning media among teachers and students in different schools and the local areas. Yes, of course, because sometimes students advance than teachers because of the allocation in their city, the willingness, the curiosity, and also the facilities, and also the competency. There is also competency gap, technological gap, and also geographical gap. You know that Indonesia is spread out across the country, so many areas that cannot reach by the internet. So it is also a part of the big problem of us. And when we can see the crisis, I think what we have to do, at least we have to recover the learning loss. It's one thing, but actually there were many other things like psychological things. But in this case, we are focusing on the recovery of learning costs. But we have to do rebalance. It is also the how do we have like a simple curriculum, but it is related with the needs. Yeah. So I think I will pass it. So action should be done for online learning to sustain. Online learning also is a bigger problem that facing with us. Before we always doing teaching and learning in the classroom, then suddenly we have to move to the online learning. But I really appreciate to the teachers because they are learning very fast, adjusted themselves to do teaching and learning in the classroom by online with some limitation, of course. But we have to think that whatsoever learning and instruction cannot stop. Teachers should become architects of digital online learning. So that's why I think all groups in Indonesia who influence the education take a significant role to participate in promoting capacity of teachers, like a PGRI. When the first pandemic era, more than 1 million teachers already been trained by us, and in ours we have like PGRI Smart Learning and Character Center. It's a center for training for teachers in the online. So we cannot stop teaching and learning, yeah, in this situation, in this kind of the pandemic, yeah. And we promote and push the teachers to become architects of digital online learning. School and teachers are not wait until everything are completed. just do it and use anything for the learning process to happen. It is what we have been done during the pandemic. Teachers should not be afraid of making a mistake or failure. Use them as means for you to learn. You should start with yourself and begin to collaborate with peers and others while using the broad-based learning resources that we have been done and push and teachers to motivate teachers, to entering the situation during the online teaching and learning should be done by teachers when the pandemic era. I think this is some critical issue during the pandemic crisis. I just pass it. You can read it by yourself, I think. This is what is the government to address for the overcoming with the serious potential futures learning loss. The government should provide all the poor and remote students an equitable access to internet such as through. Before this, I would say that for us, a pandemic also is a kind of the blessing because with the open access, both teachers and students, and also of course the society get the broad access to the internet to learn, to learn everything that provide in the internet. But there is the problem with us is the access of the internet. So we propose that making the internet backbone works and well connected to school and classroom to avoid the very costly access to the internet by distributing the free quota to its students throughout. Distributing the Wi-Fi devices to each of school to make all teachers and students free of using the internet and get easily access to more information to enable the student develop their own innovation in learning. Creating a sustainable training system for all teachers. This is for us. I think for many other also things. Hopefully, some with our thoughts that pandemic is a time for the build of momentum. Apart from the threatening phenomena, this pandemic era is such a momentum to undertake a major reform in education and major reform in education learning toward the upcoming post-pandemic era. In the post-pandemic era, to normalize the school practices such as to return to pre-crisis confessional learning model would not be sufficient. We need to come up with the something reform. What challenge? The challenge is not just to employ some correction of the school practices that cover around the axiom of more of the same. Some major transformation in terms of standard school curriculum modes of this instruction and assessment are required. A vital change in the approach of learning is then needed from the content-based toward a more intensified process based of the student learning. School curricula is to develop student capacity to learn through strengthening their basic literacy and numeracy. I think the government now promoting this, competency and their application of learning process. I think this is what change should be done. Something that's very important to share with you while managing to design a long-term transformation of schools. So we need to have a long-term transformation of school. We need to take one most important step of action that minimize learning loss effects, such as develop a school curricula of pandemic era. So if it is already finished, hopefully, the pandemic, but I think we have to move with the reform there's something regarding with the transformation in teaching learning in the school. Yeah, this allow the students strengthening their capacity of lifelong learning through practices of the literacy in reading, mathematics, and science. Then the government done it now through a more practical activities in the school. I think I will pass some recommendations to government in the way to the post-pandemic. Yeah? In the post-pandemic, with the related with the theme of the international seminars. So we have to strengthen basic digital infrastructures such as internet backbone, digital network, communication network, electricity, broadband capacity, internet access for students. Yeah, after, because we cannot, we have to focus on the post-pandemic. Yeah, we can do in the blended. In the blended, we have to learn, we have to mastery about something related with the online. And how do we do the blended itself? We need strengthen of the, like I mentioned just now in the point 1. In the point 2 is develop and transform school curricula toward a greatest quality of education in the post-pandemic era. Transform modes of learning based on the future school curricula to be delivered through online, offline, hybrid learning, and instruction using a flipped classroom concept. Flipped classroom concept that should be understood by our colleagues in the school, teachers, I mean. Massive structure and intensive teaching training, online distance learning, and instruction. Develop the visible, flexible, and dynamic operational regulation that make the schools develop their creative action for effective learning. They regulate, it's very important, yeah, all the administrative tasks for teachers and transform to developing their creative and innovative thinking for student learning to thrive, such as what for 24 hours teaching task retained, it should be reduced. Yeah, physical attendance in the school, because sometimes in the blended we don't need coming to the classroom every day. We have to divide into the project based learning, into other things, sometimes learning in the field, outside home, so we do not need every day coming to the school. Then it is need deregulate of administrative thing. Yeah, effective dana boss, and dana boss is the funding provided by government to ensure that all the teachers, all students in Indonesia have finished for my presentation. Bapak Ibu sekalian, saya kira itu yang bisa saya sampaikan di dalam seminar ini. Jadi intinya adalah bahwa kita tidak boleh menoleh kembali kepada yang lalu, kita fokus dan bagaimana kita menyiapkan diri untuk pembelajaran hybrid, yaitu online dan offline, tapi itu memerlukan deregulasi dari pemerintah ini, memerlukan pelatihan, memerlukan willingness untuk mendorong agar guru itu relevan dengan kebutuhan anak didik dan anak didik relevan dengan kebutuhan masa depannya. Saya kira itu yang bisa saya sampaikan. Mohon maaf jika ada kekurangan bahasa Inggris Tarsan. Terima kasih. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you, Ibu. It is actually very interesting issue. And then I believe that there are going to be some questions for you after this, but we will listen to the second speaker at the meanwhile.
Yes. Okay. I'm here. I'm listening.
Okay. And then for the speaker who hasn't got something to do can leave the room if it is something to do with you. Okay, here we have our second speaker, and then before we listen to his presentation, I'm going to introduce the speaker after the okay, here Bapak Ali is already here. Now, his full name is Dr. Haji Alimuddin Djawad M.Hum, and then he just graduated from his doctoral degree in program studi pendidikan bahasa dan sastra Universitas Negeri Surabaya. And his dissertation is about pemertahanan bahasa Mandar di Desa Baharu Utara, Kecamatan Pulau Laut Utara, Kabupaten Kota Baru. Okay, without any further waiting, I'm going to let Pak Ali to present his presentation. Okay, Pak Ali, the time is yours.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Terima kasih moderator dan panitia atas kesempatan yang diberikan kepada saya untuk mempresentasikan salah satu topik terkait dengan literasi. Saya akan menyampaikan dalam bahasa Indonesia. Yang pertama, topik saya itu adalah pengembangan literasi dalam pembelajaran bahasa. Topik ini ada dua hal yang barangkali menjadi kata kunci. Yang pertama, masalah literasi. Yang kedua, masalah pembelajaran bahasa. Bahasa dan literasi adalah dua aspek yang sebetulnya nanti memiliki keterkaitan, karena bahasa merupakan salah satu sarana dalam berpikir secara ilmiah. Bahkan bahasa juga akan menjadi pintu untuk masuk ke dalam dunia literasi. Sebelumnya saya menjelaskan dulu beberapa konsep dasar atau rumusan yang dikembangkan selama ini, baik yang bersifat tradisional maupun yang sekarang sudah mengikuti perkembangan yang ada. Pertama, literasi dirumuskan sebagai kemampuan membaca dan menulis. Tentu ini adalah pandangan yang tradisional. Namun di dalam perkembangan berikutnya, rumusan itu berubah menjadi literasi dipandang sebagai kemampuan membaca, menulis, berbicara, dan menyimak. Artinya adalah bahwa literasi itu selalu berhubungan dengan keterampilan berbahasa, baik itu membaca, menulis, berbicara, maupun menyimak. Selanjutnya, dalam perkembangan yang lebih modern, literasi dipandang sebagai kemampuan menggunakan bahasa dan gambar. Untuk membaca, menulis, menyimak, berbicara, melihat, menyajikan, dan berpikir kritis. Ini artinya bahwa ada semacam pergeseran dari teks pada visual karena mengikuti era perkembangan teknologi.
Ada di suaranya.
Rumusan lain berkenaan dengan literasi yaitu dipandang sebagai praktik dan hubungan sosial yang berkaitan dengan pengetahuan bahasa dan budaya. Ini artinya bahwa literasi itu selalu berkaitan dengan parameter pengetahuan bahasa dan budaya. Bagaimanapun juga, tidak sekedar bahasa, tetapi pengetahuan dan budaya ini juga perlu dipahami untuk memahami lebih jauh tentang berbagai konsep. Terakhir, literasi dipandang sebagai konstruksi sosial yang tidak netral. Hal ini menunjukkan bahwa seorang penulis sebagai orang yang memproduk tulisan tidak selamanya sepaham dengan pembaca. Boleh jadi karena sudut pandang kepercayaan, keyakinan, pengalaman, dan sebagainya. Sehingga pembaca sebagai penafsir teks akan berupaya untuk menganalisis, mengolah, dan kemudian menginterpretasikannya. Saya masuk pada komponen literasi yang dikembangkan salah seorang pakar. Pertama, secara teoritis ada istilah literasi dini. Menyangkut kemampuan menyimak, memahami bahasa lisan, dan berkomunikasi melalui gambar dan lisan yang dibentuk pengalaman berinteraksi dengan lingkungan sosial. Kemudian ada literasi dasar, berkaitan dengan kemampuan mendengarkan, berbicara, membaca, menulis, dan menghitung, yang berhubungan juga dengan masalah kemampuan analisis untuk memperhitungkan, mempersepsikan, mengkomunikasikan, dan menggambarkan berdasarkan pemahaman. Ini artinya bahwa literasi ini lebih berkembang karena sesuai dengan perkembangan kemajuan ilmu teknologi dan informasi. Dikenal juga ada istilah literasi perpustakaan. Ini kaitannya dengan masalah dunia pustaka, baik itu pemanfaatan koleksi, katalog, dan sebagainya, yang memberikan bekal atau pemahaman kepada pengunjung perpustakaan terkait dengan masalah dunia perpustakaan. Kemudian ada literasi media, menyangkut kemampuan untuk mengetahui berbagai bentuk media yang berbeda, baik itu cetak, elektronik, maupun media digital, yang untuk tujuan untuk memahami tujuan pemakaiannya. Jadi literasi media ini sekarang sudah cenderung menjadi perhatian utama, bahkan kita mengamati demikian berkembang dan pesat, sehingga konsep literasi itu juga terus mengikuti. Ada literasi teknologi, menyangkut kemampuan memahami kelengkapan dan mengikuti teknologi, maupun baik itu peranti keras maupun peranti lunak, termasuk masalah etika dan etiket dalam memanfaatkan, mencetak, mempresentasikan, dan sebagainya. Artinya adalah bukan sekedar memanfaatkan teknologi, tetapi juga bagaimana tata krama etika dalam memproduk bahasa melalui media sosial misalnya. Lalu ada literasi visual, ini yang juga menarik, karena berhubungan dengan pemahaman tingkat lanjut antara literasi media dan literasi teknologi. Jadi ada semacam penggabungan literasi. Tujuannya tentu saja untuk kemampuan dan kebutuhan belajar dalam memanfaatkan materi visual dan audiovisual secara kritis dan bermanfaat. Berikutnya saya akan menjelaskan masalah kaitan literasi dan bahasa. Apabila kita melihat gambar ini, maka itu terlihat bahwa literasi dan bahasa memiliki keterkaitan satu dengan yang lain. Hanya saja literasi dan bahasa memiliki perbedaan. Kalau literasi merupakan objek, maka bahasa sebagai subjek. Dapat dijelaskan bahwa bahasa sebagai sarana berpikir dalam ilmu pengetahuan, sarana berkomunikasi, kaitannya dengan masyarakat atau kelompok, komunitas. Oleh karena itu, bahasa dipandang sebagai subjek. Sebaliknya, literasi sebagai objek. Dengan penjelasan yang lain, bahwa bahasa bisa digunakan sebagai alat untuk masuk ke dalam dunia literasi. Sehingga mau tidak mau, bahasa ini adalah alat yang mutlak untuk memahami, mengetahui secara mendalam tentang literasi itu. Kemudian perbedaan yang lain yaitu bahasa bersifat mikro, sedangkan literasi bersifat makro. Ini artinya bahwa bahasa secara khusus dijadikan sebagai sarana untuk masuk ke dalam literasi, dan literasi sendiri itu ada berbagai bidang, sehingga untuk masuk ke bidang itu maka bahasa sebagai pintu. Kalau kita hubungkan dengan mata pelajaran misalnya di sekolah, maka berbagai mata pelajaran itu bisa dimasuki melalui bahasa. Artinya literasi di berbagai mata pelajaran itu sarananya adalah bahasa. Oleh sebab itu, bahasa dan literasi sekali lagi merupakan dua aspek yang selalu berkaitan. Terkait dengan masalah literasi, saya akan menyampaikan beberapa survei terkait dengan masyarakat kita, masyarakat Indonesia. Ada survei dari Program for International Student Assessment tahun 2019, itu melaporkan bahwa tingkat literasi rendah untuk masyarakat Indonesia itu rendah, yaitu peringkat 62 dari 70 negara. Survei yang diadakan oleh Perpustakaan Nasional tahun 2017 juga menarik untuk disimak, bahwa alokasi membaca buku rata-rata 30 sampai 39 menit per hari. Jadi tidak sampai 1 jam. Idealnya adalah dikehendaki itu 4 jam minimal. Jadi ini sangat rendah sekali. Kemudian survei yang lain, jumlah buku yang dibaca rata-rata 5 sampai 9 buku per tahun. Ini juga dianggap rendah. Dan fakta menunjukkan ada survei bahwa masyarakat kita menggunakan waktu 5,5 jam per hari bergaul dengan gadget. Nah, ini artinya bahwa masalah minat baca tentu sangat memprihatinkan, dan perlu diketahui bahwa perkembangan literasi, kemajuan literasi itu akan menjadi tolok ukur kemajuan suatu bangsa. Dan ini juga menunjukkan bahwa ternyata kemajuan teknologi tidak berbanding lurus dengan tegaknya budaya baca atau literasi di suatu negara. Selanjutnya saya akan masuk masalah paradigma pembelajaran bahasa. Kalau kita berbicara masalah pembelajaran bahasa, ada berbagai pemikiran. Pertama, pembelajaran atau language learning itu berbeda dengan pembelajaran bahasa acquisition. Pembelajaran bahasa dan pemerolehan bahasa, keduanya memiliki kesamaan, yaitu sama-sama mendapatkan bahasa. Hanya saja ketika kita berbicara pembelajaran bahasa, itu berhubungan dengan kesengajaan untuk mendapatkan atau mempelajari sebuah bahasa. Tetapi ketika berbicara masalah pemerolehan bahasa, ini berhubungan dengan alam bawah sadar dan belajar bahasa secara natural atau alami. Oleh sebab itu, pembelajaran bahasa itu sebetulnya berhubungan dengan bahasa kedua, ketiga, dan seterusnya, sedangkan pemerolehan bahasa itu berhubungan dengan bahasa pertama atau bahasa ibu. Pembelajaran bahasa menekankan pada keaktifan pembelajar ketika belajar bahasa, sedangkan pengajaran bahasa, jadi ada istilah yang lain, ada istilah pembelajaran bahasa, ada istilah pengajaran bahasa. Pengajaran bahasa atau language teaching itu lebih menekankan pada keaktifan guru. Jadi manakala kita berbicara masalah pengajaran bahasa, fokusnya adalah guru. Tapi manakala kita berbicara pembelajaran bahasa, maka fokusnya adalah pembelajar atau anak didik. Kemudian terakhir, sebuah pandangan yang mengatakan bahwa pembelajaran bahasa itu hakikatnya itu selalu berhubungan dengan kemampuan atau keterampilan menyimak, berbicara, membaca, dan menulis. Oleh sebab itu, tujuan utama pembelajaran bahasa itu adalah bagaimana menggunakan bahasa sesuai dengan fungsinya sebagai sarana komunikasi, bukan mengajarkan tentang bahasa atau pengetahuan. Kalau kita cermati kurikulum 75 di Indonesia sampai sebelumnya, ini menggunakan pendekatan struktural yang ujung-ujungnya yang diajarkan adalah bentuk-bentuk bahasa, selalu berhubungan dengan masalah pengetahuan bahasa atau tentang bahasa. Kemudian ketika masuk kurikulum 84, 94 sampai 2013, ini ada perubahan paradigma, yaitu bagaimana mengembalikan fungsi bahasa sebagai sarana komunikasi, sehingga yang diajarkan itu bukan lagi bentuk, tapi bagaimana bahasa itu digunakan di dalam situasi yang sebenarnya. Selanjutnya saya masuk pada strategi pembelajaran bahasa yang berbasis literasi. Ada satu semboyan yang menarik dalam membangun budaya literasi, yaitu melalui gerakan Ayo Membaca. Semboyan ini memang sudah harusnya, karena memang sudah dulu itu ada semboyan, tapi dalam fakta di lapangan ini belum memenuhi, sehingga yang namanya minat baca, budaya baca ini masih rendah. Sehingga motivasi itu perlu dilakukan baik bagi guru maupun juga bagi dosen di kalangan perguruan tinggi. Ada satu fakta juga yang menarik selama ini, kalau mahasiswa termasuk pelajar ini lebih percaya Google. Ketika ada tugas pembuatan makalah dan sebagainya, lebih percaya Google daripada buku aslinya. Ini tentunya juga jadi salah satu masalah yang harusnya menjadi perhatian kita bersama. Berikutnya, dalam menggiatkan gerakan literasi sekolah, itu perlu melibatkan berbagai elemen, baik itu komite sekolah, warga sekolah, masalah birokrat, pengambil keputusan, akademisi, pegiat literasi juga LSM, dan sebagainya, ini perlu dilibatkan. Karena bagaimanapun juga masalah literasi ini adalah tanggung jawab bersama. Perlu saya sampaikan di sini bahwa memang sudah ada Permendikbud nomor 23 tahun 2015 tentang anjuran untuk membaca 15 menit di kalangan pelajar untuk menumbuhkan minat baca. Tapi ini juga perlu dukungan, karena dalam faktanya harus ada kesadaran yang maksimal dari para pelajar. Yang kedua, usaha yang perlu dilakukan dalam kaitannya masalah gerakan literasi sekolah itu meningkatkan kemampuan literasi dengan menanggapi buku. Jadi buku bisa diberikan kepada anak didik sesuai dengan minat, silakan dibaca kemudian ditugaskan untuk memberikan tanggapan. Ini juga usaha untuk menumbuhkan minat baca. Yang terpenting juga perlu adanya peningkatan kemampuan literasi di berbagai mata pelajaran. Sehingga kita nanti mengenal literasi matematika, literasi geografi, literasi ekonomi, literasi sejarah, dan sebagainya. Kemudian strategi berikutnya yaitu mendesain dan menyajikan bahan ajar yang didukung dengan pemilihan pendekatan metode yang sesuai dengan bahan dan tujuan pembelajaran. Ini juga tentunya akan mendukung terkait dengan mewujudkan tujuan pembelajaran bahasa berbasis literasi. Perlu saya sampaikan juga, memang ada gerakan literasi di masyarakat, namun dalam paparan ini secara fokus lebih pada menyinggung untuk gerakan literasi sekolah. Demikian barangkali apa yang saya sampaikan untuk sementara. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Terima kasih banyak Pak Ali atas presentasinya, sangat menarik informasi yang bisa kita dapat tadi bahwa ternyata tingkat literasi kita itu sangat rendah ya, so literacy level is quite low. Tetapi tadi ada beberapa saran, some suggestion that government should have, ya kan Pak Ali ya. Okay, we will open the question answer session, and then as earlier, you can write your questions on the chat box, and then I'm going to read your questions, and then the presenters will answer your question. I'm going to start with Ibu question from Ibu Unifah first. Halo Ibu. Ibu. Ada 6 pertanyaan ini untuk Ibu Unifah. Ibu Unifah. Atau begini, saya balik aja mungkin pertanyaannya untuk Pak Alimuddin ya, Pak Alimuddin. Ada satu pertanyaan di sini untuk Pak Alimuddin. Two questions untuk Pak Alimuddin. Kemudian saya akan balik lagi nanti ke Ibu Unifah Rosyidi. Nah, pertanyaan yang pertama adalah saya bacakan aja semuanya langsung ya Pak. Jadi Bapak bisa merelate setiap pertanyaan itu jadi satu. Jadi jawabannya lebih saving time gitu. Jadi kita bisa menghemat waktu. Saya akan bacakan pertanyaan semua, kemudian Bapak bisa jawab. Now the first question is from Cahya Ervani. Pertanyaannya adalah, bisakah Bapak menjelaskan awal bagaimana literasi budaya yang dipandang melalui budaya? Apakah ada kendala untuk menelitinya? Kemudian seperti apa literasi budayanya tersebut? Awal bagaimana literasi budaya yang dipandang melalui budaya? Apakah ada kendala untuk menelitinya? Kemudian seperti apa literasi budayanya tersebut? Ya, pertanyaan kedua lagi Bapak dari Bu Yulida Hermaniar. Gerakan budaya literasi sudah acap kali digaungkan, namun sepertinya kurang signifikan di tengah derasnya arus informasi digital, di mana orang-orang bisa menerima informasi melalui video di sosmed seperti Instagram ataupun TikTok. Bagaimana peran kita sebagai pendidik dalam menghadapi fenomena tersebut? Jadi menurut Ibu Yulida, gerakan ini sebenarnya sudah ada dari dulu, tapi sepertinya dia kalah dengan ini Pak, dengan budaya-budaya yang ada, bukan budaya, maksudnya dia kurang signifikan karena adanya informasi melalui TikTok tadi maupun Instagram. Nah, jadi bagaimana peran kita sebagai pendidik? Lalu ini ada lagi pertanyaan dari Pak Abidin. What should we do as a teacher to improve student literacy? Apa yang harus kita kerjakan sebagai guru untuk meningkatkan kemampuan siswa dalam hal literasi? Jadi ada 3 pertanyaan tuh Pak. Baik, pertanyaannya banyak ini sebenarnya yang muncul. Mungkin Bapak bisa jawab pertanyaan yang 3 ini dulu. Jadi kemudian saya lanjutkan. Kalau masih ada waktunya silakan Bapak.
Terima kasih, Bu Nana. Saya jawab dulu pertanyaan dari awal. Kaitannya bagaimana awal literasi budaya yang dipandang dari segi budaya. Memang kita harus mengakui, tidak bisa memungkiri, bahwa masalah budaya ini juga hal yang sangat penting. Sebab apabila budaya itu terabaikan, saya kira itu sulit memahami sebuah konsep. Ada satu hal yang menarik. Ini saya contohkan ketika kita budaya itu tidak menguasai, tapi menguasai bahasanya, ini juga sulit. Yunani sebagai salah satu bangsa yang dikenal dalam sejarah, ini agak berbeda dengan orang Indonesia. Yang budayanya, maaf, senang dipuji kalau orang Indonesia. Dalam penelitian sosiolinguistik, ketika kita menghadapi atau mengikuti jamuan makan di Yunani, lalu mengatakan enak sekali masakan ibu, mereka tersinggung sekali. Karena bangsa Yunani tidak senang disanjung. Ini masalah budaya juga. Lalu contoh yang lain, ketika kita tidak mengetahui budaya suatu bangsa, maka bisa jadi salah kaprah dalam melihat konsep atau pernyataan. Contoh yang menarik, di luar, kata teman-teman di luar negeri, biasanya ada tulisan di halte ini, ada tulisan no standing anytime. No standing anytime. Kalau kita tidak tahu budaya orang sana, pasti lucu. Berdiri, duduk, berdiri lagi. Karena menerjemahkan dilarang berdiri setiap saat. Ketika kita masuk budaya itu ternyata bukan itu maknanya, ternyata dilarang parkir. Jadi jauh sekali. Jadi saya sependapat bahwa bagaimanapun juga masalah bahasa dan budaya tidak bisa diabaikan, sehingga literasi budaya juga perlu. Ini juga diperkuat pendapat para ahli, misalnya di dalam kajian etnolinguistik, bagaimana budaya itu kaitannya dengan bahasa, yang tidak bisa dipungkiri, sehingga kita bisa mengatakan orang tertentu tidak cukup menguasai bahasanya tanpa menguasai budayanya. Jadi untuk menguasai bahasa budaya juga perlu. Kemudian itu Bu ya. Berikutnya masalah gerakan literasi budaya.
Ya. Di tengah ini tadi Pak,
peran terhadap perkembangan
di tengah isu Instagram dan TikTok. Ya, pertanyaan dari Ibu Yulida.
Yulida. Oh, ini kaitannya masalah peran kita
gerakan
terhadap
budaya literasi itu sudah sering digaungkan, tetapi sepertinya kurang signifikan di tengah derasnya arus informasi digital.
Oh iya ya.
Jadi lebih marak informasi lewat Instagram dan TikTok ketimbang literasi membaca itu tersebut.
Oh ya, terima kasih. Jadi memang kita juga perlu menyadari bagaimanapun juga dalam perkembangan zaman harus menyesuaikan kemajuan teknologi dan informasi. Sehingga kalau dulunya literasi itu cukup dengan membaca menulis konsepnya, tapi sekarang tidak bisa lagi. Karena literasi itu bagaimana menggunakan media audiovisual, media teknologi canggih dan sebagainya, terkait dengan misalnya komputer, bagaimana mengakses dan sebagainya, sehingga akan lebih menarik apabila guru ataupun pengajar selalu mengikuti perkembangan dengan memanfaatkan media teknologi informasi. Kalau tidak, tentu tidak bisa. Dengan kata lain, gerakan literasi itu dari yang sifatnya tradisional itu berkembang, sehingga kita juga harus mengikuti kemajuan. Itu barangkali.
Jadi itu mungkin menjawab pertanyaan dari Pak Abidin juga, Pak.
Pak Abidin,
pertanyaannya kurang lebih sama. How should we do as a teacher to improve student literacy? Jadi apa yang harus dikerjakan sebagai guru to improve student literacy? Jadi mungkin terkait dengan saran Bapak kepada kepada pertanyaan dari Bu Yulida.
Maaf, kaitannya dengan masalah kiat guru untuk meningkatkan literasi di sekolah tentunya ya. Dosen juga di perguruan tinggi sama. Yang pertama dulu, guru harus menjadi model yang menarik sehingga akan menjadi panutan bagi anak didiknya. Guru tidak bisa hanya sekedar memandang bagaimana mengajar itu untuk memberikan bahan ajar, tapi yang terpenting juga bagaimana memberikan gagasan dan bagaimana merangsang siswa sehingga yang namanya berpikir kreatif, inovatif itu selalu muncul. Maka yang tentu juga menarik yang perlu dilakukan, salah satunya gerakan literasi di sekolah itu adalah harus ada mading. Kalau ada mading di sekolah dengan penugasan kepada anak didik, setiap teks di mading itu bisa dijadikan sebagai tugas untuk memberikan tanggapan. Sebab untuk memberikan tanggapan tentu membaca dulu. Jadi ini sudah terbangun literasi sebetulnya. Hanya saja sayangnya guru kadang-kadang tidak menyadari ini, ya, tidak menyadari. Seandainya kita melakukan kajian atau penelitian, guru-guru yang betul-betul sadar literasi mungkin masih memprihatinkan. Tapi ini belum ada kajian. Yang jelas bahwa kalau kita melihat di media sosial, adanya hoax, misal diterima begitu saja, kabar palsu disebarkan dan sebagainya, itu artinya ada kecenderungan masyarakat untuk tidak menyaring, tidak menyeleksi, sehingga begitu saja dibagikan. Apa ini? Ini adalah isyarat rendahnya literasi masyarakat. Jadi kalau memang kita mau maju, maka literasi itu perlu diperhatikan. Sebagai tambahan informasi untuk perguruan tinggi yang sudah maju, mata kuliah literasi itu sebetulnya perlu. Karena literasi ini sekarang itu berkembang. Jadi literasi itu bukan hanya bahasa, tapi di berbagai media, termasuk literasi digital dan sebagainya. Barangkali itu, terima kasih.
Saya simpulkan dari pertanyaan sebelumnya. Jadi tadi guru harus lebih kreatif begitu ya Pak ya. Misalnya dengan memanfaatkan mading. Nah barangkali tadi jawaban Bapak itu juga menjawab pertanyaan dari Ahmad Sauki Pak. Jadi mungkin Bapak bisa menegaskan kembali. Jadi katanya seperti ini, berkenaan materi tentang literasi tentunya identik dengan membaca. Mengenai hal ini dari buku yang saya baca yang ditulis oleh Bapak Warjito Suharso, bahwasanya hanya 20% presentasi minat baca dari peserta didik, selebihnya 80% mengarah ke hiburan. Padahal dengan membaca dapat meningkatkan berpikir, intuisi, kritis, logis, analitis, dan lain sebagainya. Jadi bagaimana kiranya Bapak menemukan budaya literasi kepada peserta didik sedari mungkin dari tingkat dasar, menengah, atas hingga ke perguruan tinggi. Mungkin Bapak bisa mengulang kembali ya Pak ya dari jawaban yang sudah Bapak sampaikan di awal, karena pertanyaan ini sepertinya mirip. Jadi tapi kalau yang ini ada ini Pak, ada tambahannya. Tingkat dasar, menengah, atas, tinggi hingga ke perguruan tinggi. Nah, mungkin Bapak bisa memberikan bisa memberikan tips yang lebih spesifik kalau peserta didik yang berada di tingkat dasar itu budaya literasinya seperti apa kita bangun. Kemudian kalau tingkat menengah seperti apa, kemudian hingga ke perguruan tinggi seperti apa. Jadi bisa menyesuaikan dengan minat umur mereka, Pak. Silakan Bapak.
Terima kasih. Masalah budaya baca ini sebetulnya berkaitan dengan minat. Jadi bagaimanapun juga seseorang pelajar itu akan memilih buku sesuai dengan minatnya. Ini jangan dilupakan. Jadi masalah minat. Sehingga guru pun juga yang bijaksana itu bisa membebaskan buku apapun bisa dipilih sesuai dengan minat. Kalau kita menyinggung masalah minat baca, tentu juga mengikuti perkembangan usia. Misalnya di sekolah dasar. Sekolah dasar itu buku yang disenangnya adalah buku yang disajikan gambar-gambar. Ini jadi secara psikologis anak didik yang ada di SD itu senang yang gambar, sehingga perlu menyesuaikan itu. Tapi manakala di SMA itu sudah berkurang ya, kemudian masuk perguruan tinggi, gambar tidak terlalu perlu. Dan yang terpenting juga di selain masalah minat, ini juga persoalan masalah yang kadang-kadang saya amati ketika ada soal ujian, maaf, untuk mata kuliah misalnya, ada soal-soal yang sifatnya hafalan. Padahal kalau kita tahu, usia semakin bertambah itu hafalan makin lemah. Ini terkait dengan masalah budaya baca. Sebenarnya kalau sudah soalnya bisa jeramal itu hafalan, anak-anak agak sulit baca, lebih senang bagaimana caranya supaya bisa membuat alat bantu yang kecil. Jadi sebetulnya kalau kita juga mencoba menumbuhkan minat baca, soal-soal itu harusnya mampu merangsang untuk berpikir. Jadi bagaimana dia berpikir sehingga tujuan pembelajaran itu bisa tercapai. Bukan bagaimana anak bisa menghafal. Saya yakin soal-soal yang sifatnya hafalan ini akan sangat mengganggu, bahkan menjadi penghambat. Barangkali
itu untuk
demikian
anak SD tadi Pak. Kalau untuk menengah?
Anak SD?
Itu untuk anak SD ya tadi sarannya. Kalau untuk menengah dan untuk mahasiswa barangkali? Ya,
baik. Untuk menengah, saya ambil misalnya sekolah lanjutan atas ya. Ini menengah. Tentunya ini tidak sama lagi dengan di tingkat dasar. Dengan kata lain, mereka berpikirnya mencoba untuk kritis. Jadi ketika melihat sebuah teks, mereka bagaimana dituntut untuk kritis. Sehingga guru sebaiknya memberikan buku-buku yang sifatnya bagaimana berpikir kritis. Contoh begini, kalau di dalam pengajaran bahasa, ada berbagai novel. Bisa novel itu dipilihkan atau pilih sendiri sesuai dengan minat. Kemudian mereka akan baca lalu memberikan resumen, lalu tanggapan, termasuk kelemahan keunggulannya. Ini juga menarik. Nah, jadi ketika anak-anak di SMA ini sudah dibawa untuk berpikir yang kritis. Jadi bagaimana dia menata gagasan, ini yang sangat penting. Nah, ketika masuk di perguruan tinggi, ini tentunya beda lagi. Sebentar saya mau masuk dulu, ada semacam keidealan begini. Barangkali kalau di SD itu mungkin 100% bahan yang diberikan oleh guru. Tapi begitu masuk SMP, itu cukup 75%, 20%-nya dicari anak. Entah di sumber bacaan, buku, atau juga mungkin lewat pertemuan ilmiah, atau juga lewat Google dan sebagainya. Ketika masuk ruang tinggi, mahasiswa, sebaiknya dosen itu jangan kayak menyuapi. Jadi bagaimana menuntut mahasiswa itu membaca buku, mengolah, kemudian menyampaikan. Pernahkah misalnya dalam satu tugas, silakan baca buku A ini, yang B buku ini, yang C buku ini. Lalu minggu depan bergantian presentasi. Ini juga pasti menuntut budaya baca itu. Jadi demikian barangkali ya untuk idealnya. Semoga bisa diimplementasikan. Terima kasih.
Terima kasih banyak Pak Ali atas jawabannya. karena masih ada waktu yang tersisa pada sesi ini, maka saya akan kembali memberikan kesempatan untuk Ibu Unifah menjawab pertanyaan tadi dari partisipan. Ibu, ada 6 pertanyaan. Should I read all of the questions and then you can read you can answer all of them at the same time, atau bagaimana, Ibu?
What's the question is?
Oh, first question first. Okay.
Maaf, tadi sambil ngerjain, saya sambil kerja sana sini.
Iya, nggak apa-apa, Bu. Tadi sudah dibalik dulu, jadi pertanyaannya untuk Pak Ali dulu. Nah, sekarang ini pertanyaan untuk Ibu. The first question is, saya bacakan ya, Bu ya.
Ada nih Pak Muhammad Ridho ini toh. In your opinion, is the new curriculum introduced by the government be effective in improving education in Indonesia after the pandemic? It is?
Ya, itu one of them. Salah satunya itu.
Oke. Aku answerin bahasa Indonesia ya Pak Bu.
Oke, please Bu.
Ini ya Pak Prof Muhammad Ridho. Pak Muhammad Ridho, kita itu tahu bahwa ada niat baik. Tetapi ya, we know that it is kind of I think so a part of the reform that government trying to do. But you know, Indonesia is a very large country, and for knowing the new curricula should be at least train all the teachers, prepare all the regulation. So I think the best important thing after the pandemic is not about the new curricula, no. Tetapi kurikulum lama yang disederhanakan, disesuaikan dengan kebutuhan. Ya, ini pandangan saya sebagai Ketua Umum PGRI dan juga kawan-kawan lain. Jadi jangan sampai ada perasaan kalau setiap ganti harus ganti kabinet atau ganti menteri, ganti kurikulum. Enggak harus. Kemarin dalam pertemuan kami dengan Bapak Presiden itu kami sampaikan bahwa saat ini kebutuhan Indonesia adalah bagaimana kita mengubah cara paradigma belajar baru, dicoba disederhanakan kurikulumnya, tapi disesuaikan dengan kebutuhan, relate dengan kebutuhan. Kebayang nggak kalau kita harus mengubah kurikulum baru, semua harus di-training. Kurikulum 2013 baru mau ngerti sudah diubah. Dan nanti kalau ada pergantian lagi bukan tidak mungkin diubah lagi. Jadi niat seperti itu harus dijaga. Gimana kita melakukan for the best interest of children and also for the guru gitu kan. Nah, itu yang harus kita lakukan, dan kami juga kemarin menyampaikan kepada Bapak Presiden kenapa harus ganti kurikulum Pak. Oh iya, beliau mendengar masukan dari kami semua. Karena menurut kami, bayangkan ya, kurikulum yang disederhanakan, kurikulum pandemik adalah sesuatu yang mencoba menyederhanakan dari kurikulum 2013 dengan pendekatan-pendekatan baru, dan guru pun harus di-training, dicoba dihadirkan. Nah, ini tiba-tiba harus newly kurikulum dengan totally different with the previous curriculum. I think it's not wise, yeah, after the pandemic. We have to do something that's related with the needs, students, and also teachers needs. Itu nomor pertama. Nomor keduanya apa ya?
Okay, Ibu, I'm going to pick an interesting question, Bu. Kayaknya pertanyaannya ini hampir semua guru bertanya-tanya seperti ini. How do we manage the children that don't have any gadget or something?
Yes.
What if they live in place for hybrid learning? Tadi kan ada disinggung tentang hybrid learning ini kan, Bu ya. Jadi ini pertanyaannya mungkin pertanyaan yang mewakili suara guru semuanya.
Okay, yeah, that's really interesting. Ya, bagaimana kita bisa? How do we can manage? Ya, children with no device at all. Ya, orang miskin dan lain sebagainya. Itu sebabnya, Bapak Ibu semua, kita perlu kurikulum darurat. Zaman dahulu UT itu sebelum ada internet itu membuat yang namanya modul-modul, diserahkan kepada sekolah-sekolah melalui pos, melalui apa. Dengan demikian guru ataupun anak-anak tidak ketinggalan, dan guru dengan guru kunjungnya, dengan modul yang disediakan, dengan apa tuh kita pakai apa tuh yang aku tuh selalu kesulitan apa sih yang ya apa sih namanya itu yang buat nyolokin itu yang tempat data itu, kabel data itu sebenarnya dengan cara begitu akses informasi dan tentu saja inovasi para guru, ya, innovation of teachers, yang guru selalu tahu dan apa yang harus bisa dilakukan. Kita apalagi setelah pandemi, we haven't to wait internet, tapi kita bisa melakukan sesuatu based on your experiences dan innovations atau apa saja. Yang penting menghadirkan anak-anak untuk belajar bersama, bahwa belajar adalah sesuatu yang mengasyikkan. So,
berarti mungkin maksudnya bisa pakai modul seperti itu ya Bu ya?
I just mentioned before a while ago. I said that we have to, maybe there is a module. Apa sih Mbak yang colokan internet itu, apa sih yang kita bisa internet besar tapi tidak harus pakai apa sih itu gitu. Disediakan banyak cara yang bisa dilakukan, termasuk juga sebenarnya kurikulum yang sebenarnya adalah para guru, benar nggak sih? Jadi gurunya bisa mengkreasikan, tidak harus, dan bisa misalnya guru kunjung itu pengalaman yang lalu ya kan, pada masa pandemi ketika kita tidak punya akses. Kalau sekarang after pandemic, post pandemic, itu hybrid. Sometimes we are using online, dan kita juga bisa menggunakan offline. So if there is no internet connection, ya kita bisa pakai offline gitu, pakai model. Yang penting innovation. Yang paling penting, the most important thing for teachers is how do we relate with their needs, with the student needs, gitu. Dan menghadirkan pembelajaran yang menarik. Atau kalau mereka yang menggunakan internet dan kita menjadi pembelajar lifelong learners, gitu, ya kita bisa mengajak anak-anak untuk semacam kita belajar tentang ini ya. Jadi kita tidak lagi menggurui, karena anak-anak bisa student have an access, ya, unlimited access di dalam itu. Tetapi mungkin peran guru adalah menyelesaikan masalah. Ya, jadi kalau anak-anak dikasih tugas ini terus kemudian suatu kali datang di kelas itu untuk menyelesaikan. Di situ pentingnya guru menjadi fasilitator. Misalnya bicara tentang apa ya, misalnya tentang tsunami, atau bicara tentang apalah, mengapa sekarang banyak di daerah beberapa daerah di Kalimantan Selatan banjir gitu. Kenapa gitu? Kan anak-anak bisa mengambilnya dari berbagai macam angle. Di situ guru kemudian mempertemukan berbagai pikiran anak-anak itu untuk menjadi solusi bersama. Itu juga sangat menarik. Jadi ada internet atau tidak ada internet, guru adalah kurikulumnya. Ya, ada atau tidak ada internet. Ada lagi?
One more question, Ibu.
Kayaknya ada lagi.
Here, what do you think about teachers who are still lack of technology for online learning?
Yeah, we have to learn, of course, first of all. Ya, tapi teknologi itu as a tool. Okay, the curriculum itself is a teacher. Okay, jadi kalau online learning kita sebenarnya bisa belajar ya. Saya kira sekarang hampir semua kita punya gadget, betul nggak, guru? Nah, kita kadang-kadang harus belajar sama anak kita. Ya, rasa ingin tahu, kemauan untuk belajar, curiosity, ya, untuk belajar, termasuk menggunakan yang sederhana. WhatsApp bisa untuk pembelajaran. Pada waktu kami melakukan pelatihan buat guru-guru P3K di seluruh Indonesia, banyak guru yang nggak punya akses pada internet, no access actually, ya, di remoted, di mana-mana gitu. Tapi kita bisa menggunakan Telegram, yang paling sederhana, kita bisa menggunakan apapun untuk ruang diskusi. Jadi ada aksioma yang mengatakan bahwa guru nggak bisa digantikan dengan teknologi, tapi guru yang nggak mau belajar itu yang pertama kali tergantikan, betul nggak? Jadi apapun alasannya kita harus belajar dengan teknologi yang paling sederhana sekalipun, dengan Telegram. Orang kita itu menggunakan, kita sekarang itu belajar di YouTube, bener nggak sih? Bener nggak, Mbak? Orang kita tuh nggak ada lagi yang nggak bisa mengakses gitu. Kenapa kita nggak bisa itu dihadirkan di kelas? Jadi dengan sedikit berimajinasi, ya, dengan sedikit keinginan untuk melakukan pembelajaran yang berbeda, I think, ya, guru bisa memanfaatkan teknologi as a tool for teaching and learning in the classroom or outside classroom. Jadi itu, yang penting mindset. I want to do something different with before, misalnya. Gitu, ya Mbak ya.
Okay, Bu. One more question, Bu.
Okay.
What about if there is an area which has no access to internet?
Say it again.
Ya, gimana kalau misalnya daerah itu tidak ada akses ke internet?
Itu kan pertanyaan yang udah aku jawab.
Tadi jadi saya tegaskan lagi, berarti you can use modul tadi ya Bu ya. So itu only teacher's mindset.
Ya, modul anything, termasuk include teachers itself as a curricula. Jadi bisa menggunakan yang related dengan topik atau apa, dengan yang kontekstual gitu kan. Apalagi sekarang kita sudah gimana ke depan kita nih. Kita kan sekarang tidak harus selalu pakai online. Tetapi yang paling penting dari pertanyaan tersebut adalah bagaimana nih
mindset
kita semua
tadi
mengubah mindset kita bahwa kita harus mau belajar dengan teknologi. Kita nggak bisa. Itu yang paling penting. Jadi kita nggak bisa excuse
dengan internet access tadi. No excuse to internet access.
Any access. Iya, dengan teknologi, atau kita nggak bisa excuse, no excuse anymore. Kita harus willing to know how do we understand, how do we use the jadi apa teknologi dengan yang sederhana, dan anak-anak sekarang yang paling sederhana pun mereka udah tahu, para guru pun tahu. Gitu. Yang penting itu adalah mindset kita mau berubah,
mindset guru
kita
berarti
mau memberikan sesuatu yang beda. Aku mau nyapa dulu dong, Ibu Rektor, ya, Rektor dari STKIP College, Ibu Dina. Halo Ibu Dina, thank you for the invitation.
Silakan Bu Dina
untuk STKIP-nya ya Bu Dina.
Assalamualaikum, halo Ibu.
Waalaikumsalam. Mana sih Bu? Di spotlight bisa nggak ya Bu Rektornya di spotlight?
Bisa, di sini?
Bisa banget. Thank you for the invitation. Actually, saya sangat senang banget untuk invitation ini, kita saling belajar.
Terima kasih Ibu sudah memenuhi undangan kami. Sehat selalu Ibu. Besok ke sini ya.
Iya, Ibu senang banget sih. Ibu Dina itu lucu dan cantik dan punya kurios yang sangat tinggi, dan kita dorong semua buat STKIP maju.
Mohon
doanya.
Bu. Iya, oke. Besok ketemu Bu ya.
Oh iya, terima kasih banget.
Iya, siap.
Ya, oke.
Salam
Ibu,
dari kami semua di sini Bu, tetap sehat.
Terima kasih.
Iya.
Okay. Ibu, probably you like to have a closing word for your presentation?
Ya, saya ingin mengatakan begini. Guru adalah arsitek pembelajaran. Ya, we are an architect of the teaching and learning. Jadi kita nggak boleh mundur, kita harus punya open mindset, ya. Kita harus melakukan yang terbaik buat anak-anak kita. Ada atau tidak ada internet, Yang penting kita mau belajar dan memberikan ruang yang terbaik bagi anak kita. Satu hal, kita harus relate dengan kebutuhan anak kita, dengan kebutuhan ilmu pengetahuan yang berkembang. Dan kita diizinkan dititip Tuhan untuk mendorong perubahan bagi anak bangsa. Terima kasih.
Oke, thank you Ibu. Jadi kalau misalnya saya simpulkan, stop blaming for internet access seperti itu ya Bu ya.
Ya, of course. Ya, jadi
Oke,
kita
thank you.
nggak
Jadi
bisa
itu
blaming
menegaskan
only
artinya
internet
terhadap
access.
pertanyaan-pertanyaan yang sama tadi. Ya, baik sebelum kita
Kalau gitu,
menutup.
terima kasih ya, boleh
Ya,
pamit
gimana
ya?
Ibu?
Aku ada dari Kutai Kartanegara, ada tamu dari mana, ada tamu dari mana. Pamit ya, boleh ya?
Iya, oke, thank you.
Thank you for the speakers ya from abroad.
Masih
Thank you
satu
very
lagi
much
Bu,
for-
nanti setelah ini ada apa namanya, ada penyerahan sertifikat, so stay here for a few minutes. Okay.
Okay.
Now, as our appreciation to Ibu Unifah, so we give the certification as the keynote presenters in the first international seminar on education, technology, and arts. So thank you, and we can give applause to Ibu Unifah Rosyidi, M.Pd.
Thank you very much for the certificate. Thank you all for you. And good luck.
Ya, sukses juga Ibu. Assalamualaikum.
Waalaikumsalam, maaf kurang. Boleh pamit ya, saya ngerjain yang lain banyak kamu.
Iya, siap Bu.
Bye all.
Okay, goodbye. Have a nice day for you. Kemudian kita lanjutkan kembali. So our next session is giving the certificate as our gratitude to our second presenters in the second session here, to Dr. Haji Alimuddin Djawad M.Hum as the presenter of our first international seminar on education, technology, and arts. Give applause for Dr. Alimuddin Djawad. Handed by Ibu Dina. And then I'm going to give the time to Ibu Tina as the host of the International Seminar on Arts on Technology. Okay, please Ibu Tina.
That concludes today's event. On behalf of the committee, I would like to extend our gratitude to our speakers, Professor Dr. Unifah Rosyidi, M.Pd, Dr. Donnie Adams, Dr. Muhammad Roil Bilad, and Dr. Alimuddin Djawad M.Hum for a very valuable knowledge. And also I would like to thank our participants who are joining us today via Zoom or YouTube channel for the participations, for the questions. Now I would like to inform you, all the presenters, about the parallel sessions. In the next 10 minutes, our team will put the presenters on the parallel sessions. You will be put into breakout rooms. Each presenter will have around 7 to 10 minutes to deliver their presentations. There will be question and answer session once all presenters have delivered their presentations. So you have 7 to 10 minutes to deliver your presentations. Don't forget for our presenters to rename your Zoom name. So you put your room name, you put your room numbers, and then your name and your institutions. For example, you are in room 2, so you will put P2 underscore Agustina Lestari underscore STKIP PGRI Banjarmasin. So it will be easier for our team to put you into your breakout rooms. And for the non-presenter participants, you may enter any room that you wish to enter. Presenters and participants are free to leave the Zoom once the parallel sessions in the room end. So you don't have to return to the main room once the presentations in your breakout room end. So you could just leave the Zoom. Once again, on behalf of the committee, I thank all participants and presenters for joining our event today. And we hope to see you again on the next event. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Okay. Presenters, you have around 10 minutes to rename your Zoom before we put you into your breakout rooms. Okay. In the next couple minutes, we are going to open all the breakout rooms. So all the presenters, you should proceed to the breakout rooms that has been assigned to you. For the non-presenters or for the participants, you may choose the rooms that you wish to enter. Okay, IT team, ready? Okay, we open our breakout rooms. So presenters, you may enter the breakout rooms that have been assigned to you.
Apa tadi itu nama anunya? P berapa? P3 kita P2. Kita P2. Ini kah?
The attendance, the link for attendance and certificate has been given on the chat box and also on the YouTube channel. So you may check the chat box and the chat box on the YouTube channel. Okay, so presenters, please proceed to the breakout rooms. For participants, you may choose the room that you are going to enter. Otherwise, we are going to pick the room for you. Kepada presenter, silakan memasuki breakout room yang sudah dibagi sebelumnya. Dan kepada participants, non-presenter, silakan memasuki breakout room yang Anda inginkan. So, ada waktu sekitar 5 menit. Jika participants non-presenters tidak memilih breakout room manapun, maka panitia yang akan menentukan akan dimasukkan ke breakout room yang mana. Format untuk presenter P, lalu room number berapa, underscore nama, underscore institusi. Jadi kalau misalnya ada di room 1 bisa P1 underscore namanya Agustina Lestari underscore STKIP. Ya, waktu untuk presentasi sekitar 7 sampai 10 menit.